So as it continues to go down, you're welcome everybody today, but we want to thank you for watching. That's by far the most important thing. So thank you for watching everybody on TikTok, Rumble, Kick, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, Starlink live feed. And if you're here watching us right now on YouTube, that's our most popular spot there. And there it goes. Now we're $2 in the money. So here we go, man. Yeah, big day ahead for you guys on the midday. You know, missed you guys on Friday afternoon. I'm sure Obi did absolutely fantastic as per usual. Thanks, Neil. Good job there today. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Glad to have Adara back.
On, baby.
It's Joe and Sharif. See you later.
I wasn't ready for that one.
Wasn't ready.
Oh, greetings and salutations, beautiful people. Welcome to the Midday Show. That's your boy Joey Options. I'm Sharif, and it is Monday. It feels like Monday. At least
Just another manic
Monday. What's going on, everybody? Well, shout out to the real dangerous other Zigs. We're getting everybody singing now. Bailey Buttons, nerd affiliated. Mr. Leahy, Lee, the frickin' conductor. Happy birthday, brother. Lee, you are, I guess you're in Aries, man. Shout out to you. We got Rev Boost. We got Scott H. We got Dewey, Robert Lewis, Dap, Angelo's in the house. Katina Man, Omar, Slow Motion for man. We got C. Terry, Bill Hardy, Billy Hardy, I should say, Robert Lewis, Los Palos Hermanos. Shout out to Rex, Banner, and crew. John, I see you, John. I see you, Noisy. Dennis Hudson as well. Shout out to King Clutch. Peter, P-Mac, Hangry, Florida Man Transplant. My boys, how are y'all? We're good, man. We're good. A day in the life of pizza. Shout out to the pizza guy and Dabba Dabba Doo. Ironclad Traders joining us as well. Joey's Callum, Mitchell Miller, iFast Trades, The Whatnot Inc., Taco Monday says. Vincent, we got QB's Mo, A Proper Dang Paradox, always makes me chuckle, and Chang Main, Wet the Beak. Yes, absolutely, we will wet the beak. What's going on over there, Katina Man? Katina Man says oil is moving, so you probably should keep your eye on oil as it goes. Oh no, into the low of the day. More pleased that could not be. Great trade, Katina Man. Take that thing down to zero like it was during COVID.
Oh, that's crazy. All right, yeah, guys, good morning. Hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. I was late into the building today. Had to do little things this morning. Yeah, dropped the break my wallet off there. We're gonna go to Adara and then we're gonna talk a little bit more about what we got going on.
There are some, I guess really the only oil headlines are just kind of these ones we were seeing earlier where Israeli media, specifically the Jerusalem Post, I believe, was reporting that President Trump and the U.S. team were speaking with a senior Iranian official. Axios reporter, I guess, giving a little bit more color to this story, saying that contacts are underway for a meeting between the senior Iranian and American officials in Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan, later this week. Apparently, as part of the contacts for the summit in Pakistan, possibilities being considered that the U.S. Vice President Vance will be the senior American representative. Again, this is an Axios reporter building on other reports suggesting that there is going to be some kind of developed talk here between the U.S. and Iran with regards to ending tensions there between the two countries. AMD also on watch here, the information reporting that NVIDIA has developed a new server rack that can run chips from competitors like AMD and Google. That's, again, a report from the information.
Perfect, thank you, Adam James. We'll get to that momentarily. But yeah, a couple of attempts here to see if we were going to get that breakdown on AMD. We had that nice short on Friday. Maybe we figured we'd get a little bit of a continuation here this morning. Doesn't seem to be the case as oil is moving to the downside and the tech names are definitely surging here today. NVDA with a gap up. Tesla and AMD are the names that I got on my radar thus far. Let's pull up some of the charts. And we have a nice steady uptrend here, guys, in AMD and the triple Qs as well, too. So I think it's time to just go with the flow. If it breaches that high, thesis invalid. But if we do seem to get somewhat of a curl over, but that doesn't seem to be the narrative in today's session. A massive move, almost a 9-point move here in NVDA, especially on Friday's session. Lots of selling, and I'm like, oh man, out of the money on some of the shares that I just bought. But there's some key things that we're going to look at this morning. And it's just like, ooh, makes a lot of sense. And some things that we can correlate from last week as well, too. So the NASDAQ, NVDA, Tesla, and AMD, these are the names that I have on my radar. I have no issues with switching things up relatively quick. But if I want to get involved with the long side, what do I want to do? Try to catch the lower end of this uptrend, and then maybe we can get a nice steady grind higher in the likes of the king of the chips. And it's, I guess we'll call this the Robin here of NVDA's Batman, AMD. Now, Tesla continuing to climb here, guys. 373. We gap up, and that momentum really kicked in here at 359. So that's almost a 30-point day right here on Tesla, and it's only 11 o'clock. So a lot to still rock and roll with here this morning, guys.
I hate you, Adam. Why, Adam? He's like, last night because Arsenal lost to City in the Carabao Cup final last night, 2-0. We played like absolute hot trash. He's already coming with the super chats. Adam James abroad. Time to get short Kepa. Let's go, Gooner. Yeah, he sucks, bro. And Arteta came out, said he'd play him again if he could. And she's like, dude, you're putting the person here ahead of the team. Just because you've let him play the tournament from the get-go doesn't mean that he's the right guy for the right situation. We love you, Kepa. We do. We love you, Kepa. We do. No, I don't, man. Sell his ass in the summer. I don't want him around anymore. Kepa Arrizabalaga. All right, you take your ass back to Chelsea, you suck. All right, let's get right down to work. I've updated my risk calculator, so now this thing is live, and I'm quite proud of it. Now, we're not gonna be able to connect directly to my platform, so I won't be able to execute on it, but the good thing is, now it's got live data feeding right into it. Let's take a case right here. So we got BIAF. This one's moving great. It looks fantastic, trading at 410, 409, right? But the issue was looking at my share size versus the amount that I wanted to risk and my stop. It was just taking me too long to enter it in. Now I can kind of get all that ready ahead of time. So I put what I want to risk per trade. I put in my stop, which shouldn't really change, all that much. So those two variables, those are going to be fixed, most of the time. And then what really changes there is how many shares that I'm going to take, as well as my risk to reward. Now, for my risk to reward at the bottom there, they're updating with the price. So if I was to get in at 406, my 1R would be 426, for example. I want to be able to lock that in so that I have the option for my R&R to be live and to be paused. So when I'm in a trade, I don't want to see what the live price R&R is. I want to see the price that I got in at. So I have one more update to do for my risk calculator over here, and then we're going to make it available for everybody. We're going to be able to put it up on the I think the what's it called, for the YouTube Premium members. So this one, keep your eye out coming in. It's going to be packageable, and you're going to be able to probably have multiple of these. So my goal with this one is to have like 4 or 5 of them so that I can watch 4 or 5 different stocks. And this is live data, by the way. So you can see the price action move with BIAF is on the middle left of your screen. You can see 417, then drops right down to 415. So good live data on this one. Took me a bit to do, but finally it's working. It's working well. And on top of that, look at this. I was able to also program it so that it stays above all the other screens. So that way I don't have to keep looking for it. So like when I click behind, it's actually right there. So pumped for this one. It's definitely going to help me manage the risk with the speed at which these ones trade. So we're going to keep an eye on that. As soon as it's available, I'll make it packaged for everybody free of charge, of course. So top left of your screen, that's the multiple halter PTLE. It's halted down at 810. We'll get to that one in a second, but it's below the 10 EMA. It's below VWAP, so I'm really less and less interested with this one. What I am interested in, though, is BIAF and SATL. Those look fantastic. SATL, a little bit less than 21% on the day. BIAF, a bit more, 50.5%. What I do like about BIAF is it looks like it was going to topping tail dance and then kind of head back down. But you see, when the buyers step in aggressively at 4, and here we go again. 418 showing up. Current bar high is 19. High of the day is 25. So we haven't quite cleared prior bar high quite yet, but it showed you that there was aggressive buying at $4, which is what you want to see with these ones, especially when they're extended. So one of those anomalous situations here, because the price action developed quite quickly, where the volume weighted average price is above the 10 EMA on the 5. 5 at around 380. 10 EMA on the 5 is 375. But I'd be more looking at $4 here as at least a local area of support. Now, look, here's the deal. We already bounced off it once. You might get one more time or twice, but if it comes back down to 4 a bunch of times, it might be headed back down to 380, 375. So keep your eye on that. SATL, this one just got into day's high. It's taking out prior area high, probably on the way to the $0.50 right now, 437, a very clean hold off that 10 EMA. Just a one quick wick below it, and then multiple green candles in a row here to take out the high. So SATL, a holdover from Friday, but very much in play. We're going to talk about more, but for the moment, we have to go up to the big desk with Adara.
Yet another update here on oil, guys. We're now getting comments from the spokesperson of the Iran Security Committee saying that President Trump is either, quote, lying or talking nonsense, saying that there are no talks and that only force will be understood, quote unquote, as strikes and oil price surge have shifted momentum. So again, we're just getting some more comments. We already had Iran denying these comments from President Trump, but just be aware we're getting more circulation here of this denial as we then also get reports from Axios and the Jerusalem Post suggesting that there's actually going to be a meeting potentially in Pakistan between the U.S. and Iran leaders here, including Vice President J.D. Vance potentially leading up the American side. If I get more details on any of this back and forth, I'll keep you posted.
I hear on ALDX. This one got into the high moments ago, 222, up a respectable 22%, clearing $2 earlier on. So we needn't worry about the whole dollar resistance now. But when you do look back a few days, we did come from a lot higher. I'm thinking really around 4. So first and foremost, we're going to be looking at that $0.50 as that local area of resistance on ALDX. If we can clear that, Joey, for whatever reason, there's a double bottom here at 275. So kind of annoying to have so many different areas of resistance close together, but that 275 double bottom is very obvious from the 17th. If we can clear that, we're also looking at the whole dollar. It tends to be a bit of a resistance level, but ALDX kind of putting in a couple of bull flags now. We'll see if this current breakout ends up manifesting as a bull flag, but we got that 10-10 breakout. It doesn't have a lot of volume, relatively speaking, of course, but I think enough volume for you and I to be able to bamboozle in. MGRX is breaking down. It seems like it's kind of like an oscillating wave. I trade this as a range if I was to trade it at all. Essentially 33 pennies as support with about 40 pennies as resistance. Some outlying areas here and there, but for the most part, that is what the levels are. And then AHMA. This one looks like it's past its prime. Multiple topping tail candles shows you resistance throughout the up move with the ultimate high of the day being 847, breaking down into 7 with a lot of lower highs. So I'd say be careful with AHMA. This one could be a little bit of trouble. And then AIFF. I mean, who can hate on Firefly Neurosciences, man? Always a good look. It's got some higher lows here, but it just started breaking down now below 220, which is the volume weighted average price. Still up 40% though, so it gapped up nicely from Friday's close, but it looks like maybe, Joey, the best trade is behind this. So those are the ones that I'm watching right now. We're going to keep an eye on these ones, but as always, if there are any good small cap gappers, tag myself or Joey. We'll have a look at them for you.
Yes, sir. Oil is failing. That's a nice move right there, down to 106.70. Look at this steady downtrend. Multiple touches here, guys, and now you're starting to get a clean flush break of 109 and the continuation. So a big time move in oil. What's it look like on the daily? Oh boy, we'll hit that one there for OB and see what we got going on there. We open up at 113, and now moving down to 106. So I don't know. I think it might be a little bit tough on the equities front to get that short to come into play, even though we do have a trend break here on AMDL, which I'm looking for. I mean, these were just feeler positions, so I have no issues with where we're rejecting, right? We're coming up. We failed to break above this previous high, a double touch up there, almost a triple top here, guys. And then now we're starting to pull in aggressively. The only thing is that the volume's not necessarily supporting the breakdown. I would like to see a little bit more volume there. And then also what we can definitely take into consideration is where we open up on today's session, above some key resistance zones. So maybe we get somewhat of a breakout range here today, and then up above some of this resistance zone around 209.47. So we'll keep our eyes on it. We don't want to force it. Again, 2 starter positions, small potatoes, and looking to add aggressively here on this potential trade. risking 10 cents or so. If I wait till 95s, then we get out around 105 or 1305 there, which gives me plenty of room. But it looks pretty strong, guys. Running through our watch list, what's IBIT been up to? I seen we dipped into 68 last night, but a little bit of a recovery here, guys. That's not too bad whatsoever. Back up to $40. We want this to hold, right? We want this consolidation zone to hold, and then sure enough, we want to come and retest this trend around $43 or $45. So that's what we got going on in AMD and IBIT. XLE, how have you been performing? Absolutely monstrous since last year. 36%, right? A big time breakout in XLE, a space in a sector that we really don't see that type of move. So not too bad of a look whatsoever. And it did do a split. Okay, I didn't know that. A 2-to-1 split. Very, very interesting. AMD about to retest that pivot high. Maybe no short in play right now. Getting a pullback on NVDA. We'll be patient and wait for some prime time entries here, guys. Adara.
Chris Wright keeps making the rounds. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright was speaking around 10 a.m. at this CERAWeek energy event in Houston, Texas. Then he was speaking on CNBC, and now here he is speaking with Fox Business, saying that oil prices would be going down if the Iran war ends in 5 days. So kind of giving an odd little 5-day buffer here, I guess, for oil prices to drop in connection to the ending of the Iran tensions. He also said that it's President Trump and his administration's responsibility to end these tensions with Iran, saying they can't, quote, kick the can to the next U.S. administration. Back to you.
Good stuff. All right, a couple more things here. So the starter positions now at this attempt, we've tripled up the size. If it breaks this high, then we're out of dodge, okay? But a nice clean flush is exactly what we want to see on the time of sales. Let's see if we can get our quote highlights up and see if we can find any form of a ladder to the downside. There it goes, Sharif. A nice little move to the downside there on AMDL. We're going to wait for a little bit more, maybe a bounce off of the volume-weighted average price, but look at this trend line break, okay? You come back, you get the retest, and then boom, you get a little bit of a snap right there. So we'll keep our eyes out on this one. So far in the money, we'll take that. Better than what we had going on earlier today.
Good job, Joey. All right, guys, continuing to watch. I'm in BIAF now. Let's see if this one has the juice to hold. I'm putting my out below the 1105 bar low. So we're going to give that one a little bit of time to kind of manifest. It's at the high, so it may have to dilly-dally around here. If it doesn't, if it loses trend, we'll get stopped out. I already earmarked my out there. Looking for the first profit taker at around 15, but my 1R is going to be around, do we get the fill? Coming into 14. I think current bar high is 15, but it didn't cross. No, current bar high is 14. Looking for the continuation into the $0.25. There we go, Joe. And there is the high of the frickin' day. Give me my money, okay?
Do you use your risk calculator?
Boom. Of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow. That's a good move there. 440 high. We're in at 406. We're still holding shares. We just got 2R there. Quick as you like. Okay. Now we're gonna wait near the $0.50. Let's go ahead and post up 47s. We're going for that. And we're packing the patience here. Shout out to my man MF. Dangerous. He's so dangerous. Who's that song from, bro? Is that like that? That's an old reggae song, man. Dangerous, I'm so dangerous.
Maybe Neo might know that one there.
Who does that, man? I don't know. Adara's singing it. She must know who it is, man. But any event.
It's is that not Akon? And who does the rap verse on that? Sounds like Ludacris.
I'm pretty sure it's a reggae song. In any event, 40 is the high. We're waiting next at, I believe, 447. So that's where we're waiting next. We're going to test that $0.50 there. Should have added more size onto this one, but I did take exactly how much size I wanted. So that's all right. We'll pack the patience. Now, what's the next trade as the OB? He is the one Kenobi would like to say. Festival, Barrington? Cardinal, yeah, it is Cardinal Official. Yes, Lazy Rocks. There it is. Okay, I'm gonna have to get that one.
What do you know about Cardinal?
Well, he's got to be on this side of the border. Then he's definitely got to be on this side of the border. No, Cardinal. But anyway, yes, BIAF is him right now. Let's see if he can take out the $0.50. Other than that, Joey, I'm keeping an eye on SATL, which is now coming into the 10 EMA on the, 10 EMA on the 5, and this is this has been a money buy area. I'm thinking around 4.25. Now I wouldn't get too strict with my stop placement on this one because it has had a tendency to kind of just breach it momentarily and then mosey on back up. Let's just do a quick one. I think we did talk about this one coming from higher. No, that was a different one. Flip to the hourly here, just quick, so we can see.
Oh, Sharif.
1 second, Joey. I just got to see what the levels are. 450, Joey, because we've been up into this level lately. So I'm going to tell you, we're probably looking at 5 as our first level of resistance on SATL. But people want to know what you're doing over there, Joey.
It's working out, man. I mean, it's slowly starting to work here for us on AMDL. That's the thing with these leverage products, right? Like you're risking 10 cents. So I was waiting for 95, so a little bit more than that, 12 to be proven wrong. But there we go. We hit the 10 cent. So about a 0.8 to 1 right now, but I'm not going to complain. And there it is. Bang. Oh, my day. Flush City.
What happened,
Sharif?
Joe?
It's Flush City out here at this point. So we'll take a little bit off right there at the volume-weighted average price. A nice little move. And I told you guys, these were starter positions, right? And then I just really hammered up the size on that triple top up there. And if we can get the break of view up, I don't even know from a percentage metric what I just took off there, about 20% or so. And if we get another clean move, then we'll look to take a little bit more off. But we want to leave some for a Mike Peter rider here. And I mean, you know what I mean, leave it for a rider, a runner. But anyways, but yeah, if it breaks that 206 mark, then I think we can start to cover some of this engulfing print that we seen earlier today. So not too bad of a look there on AMD. Tesla starting to come in off the highs. This channel, it doesn't seem very strong to me. And I feel that if you have sellers or larger participants really step in, it can be broken and then maybe it'll give back a little bit of this move. There goes NVDA breaking the trend line as well too. So not too bad of a look whatsoever. I don't see very much. NU Holdings was pretty strong here today. Oh, wow, an IREN. Look at this print right there, Gorb. I haven't seen my boy Gorb or Los Polios in the chat.
Oh, my days.
Excuse me, this is what you want to look for. That is a really, really good entry and a beautiful signal right there at the volume-weighted average price. American Airlines not doing so much. Yeah, the whole market had that nice uptick there earlier in the day. So, again, we're going to see what silver's up to. And if we can get that break, then that's going to be really nice. Starting to come back in a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some aggressive buying and the VWAP buyers step in. So what's up, MF Dangerous? Hope everything's going good, my friend. But, yeah, we took about 20% off there on AMD.
All right, good job, Joey. Watching BIAF come back down, stopped out for the last remaining amount at 418. We're in at 406s. Watch out for a 4 buyer here, guys. There's a lot of support at 4 through the break. You can kind of see the interactions on the 1-minute chart. 1-minute chart's going to be always the top of my screen. 5-minute chart will be the bottom. So you can kind of just see that over and over. The buyers have been stepping in generally at 4. Now you do have some levels below that $4 level that are important, namely the 390 area. And the only reason I point to the 390 area as an area of import is because the 10 EMA and VWAP are overlapping right around that 390 area. So that could be an area where the algorithms could pick it up at, whether the shorts cover there, the longs look to get in at around that level. But first and foremost is going to be that key psychological area of support and resistance, and that is $4. ALDX at highs, says Cool Brioche. I see it, my man. Good call out, though, by the cool one. Up 23 some odd %, dancing around the $0.25. This is the one that we had on our watch list on Thursday. Did bupkiss on Friday, but, you know, it's a former convict in the sense that we know that it's one of those ones that runs. And if it's going to run, we're gonna keep an eye on it, Joey. But the fact of the matter is this one has got a much lesser volume than it did have on Thursday. Now, don't forget, this one's coming from a lot higher. It had a very bad day on the 17th where it dropped, I think, almost about 75 to 80% there from where it was trading in the pre-market, like early in the pre-market, 5 a.m., 4 a.m. And then when all was said and done, about an hour before the bell rang, we were less than $1. Now it's since recovered, dancing here at 225. But you need to keep your eye out on the levels, right? The levels that we're coming from, especially since they're recent, like last week, because they could act as areas of resistance. I'm super tired today, guys, and so I'm gonna have just a little bit of a more calm disposition, but maybe, you know, the what's it called, the coffee kicks in and we get all amped up, but right now I am super tired. You know what it is, bro? It's like my weekdays are rammed. I have no time from the morning to bed. So any other things that I need to get done get pushed over to the weekends, and then my weekends are being slammed as well, and then I just get no rest. So it's a problem to have.
It's a term, as the youngins would like to call it, adulting.
Adulting, yeah, exactly. I'm adulting like 30 years into, or more, into my adulthood. No, but seriously, SATL right into the high. My sleep score last night, Sage, I think it's actually not that great. It was like 72 or 73, which isn't bad. I average high 70s, low 80s, so this one wasn't too bad. I don't think it was the quality of the sleep. I think it was probably just my activities yesterday, because anyway, SATN, we smashed tennis too on top of that. I couldn't stop, Joe, because the weather was cooperating. Couldn't get the weather Saturday because it was raining. Yesterday calmed the hell down, so I was able.
Where were you, bro? Yesterday was pure rain.
No, not in the later part of the day.
Oh,
right
in the latter. Okay,
in the afternoon I went. Yeah. We played on hard court, so it was all good there. But guys, SATL holding the 10 EM and the 5. I should have got into this one. I don't know why I hedged. What a clean hold here into that 430 area, and then a new high a day of 443. Keep your eye on this one. Shout out to Lemon Family. It was 100 here in Vegas yesterday. I hate you, Lemon Family.
I know, man.
Well, you know what? 100 is not really my jam, but I do know Vegas is the dry heat. As long as there's no humidity, I can kind of get behind that. But man, I remember going to Vegas in 21, and it was like at, I don't know, 2 in the morning, and just the wind, all dark, or sorry, like hot air blowing in your face at 2 in the morning. And then the funny part is, it started raining. So like the droplets of rain were just fantastic.
There's nothing worse than
fantastic.
Like one thing that drives me, it grinds my gears about the Caribbean is that after it rains, you see the steam, like it happens here sometimes in the summer, but you just see the steam coming off of the ground and the humidity. Yeah,
That's
it's
hilarious.
So garbage, man. And you're just sticky, right? Like you can have a shower a couple times. At my dad's house,
it's not gonna help.
So at my dad's house, while he was building it for a long time, it was classic island country stuff. You grab the bucket of water because the faucet didn't have enough pressure in it and stuff, right? And you're doing that. You could do that 4 or 5 times a day and still not.
You're gonna get sticky right away.
You're gonna get sticky right away. But what also we're gonna do right away, right here, Sharif, is take a little bit more. Okay, yeah, no, we don't want that now, do we, ladies and gentlemen? We'll take a little bit more off here on AMDL. Let's see if we can catch that fill, folks. We want to head up on the bed. You got to do it a little bit quicker there, my guy. Can we get it? There we go. All right, we take some 81s on that one as we are heading towards the volume weighted average price, and looking like we are going to break that here momentarily, especially if we continue on this trajectory. I know, Overthinking Bear, we need the animation like Sean's What's for Lunch. We got Joseph's Grind My Gears segment, and then we can go over that, and we just do it stock related. This is what I wanted to pull up here, considering we're sitting in this AMDL trade. It's working pretty good for us here, ladies and gentlemen, considering we had 3 times the amount of size on this one entry than what we had on these ones. So that's why it's important to get out, right? Like, I get it. At times you get flustered, you get frustrated, but if you can stick to your book the majority of the time and the rules, then it just sets you up for opportunities like this. Starter, right? Because I was looking for the break of the support level. Didn't break, no problem. We get out of it. We try it one more time on this curl over. Decides to go and break this pivot high, no problem. We get out of it. Forms that base up top, boom, and we're fortunate enough to get in right at the right time. Now, before we head over to the options chain, guys, we got Mojar, $10. Trump lies about talks in Israel and UK jump in line to support it. Best friend code to a T. As Kevin Hart says, as my best friend, I shouldn't have to ask to put you in my lie. Exactly. There you go. You don't need to ask. It should just be automatic. There it is. All right, guys. Thank you very much for that $10 super chat, our friend. And
my friend.
I hope you're having a solid day. But let's head over to NVDA and the options chain and see what we got going on this week's expiration cycle. Now, we know that we had the witching event last Friday. So what do we want to see here at that $200 mark? Substantial size, which we do not. Those have all expired. There is a little bit of supply within the 180 and the 185s, but it's nothing close to what we were seeing last week. Now, we were in the hundreds of thousands of contracts, 200,000 plus at 200. We had 185 with 193, 197, the 185s with 190 as well, too. But now we're only sitting around 57, 54, and 59. Substantially lower than what we were experiencing from last week. So, is this some room to breathe and for us to climb a little bit higher. I think this size can be absorbed here in NVDA, considering what we've known from previous experiences that it has this volume typically, but we need a lot more to stop this name from continuing climbing high. All
right, guys, continuing to watch BIAF over here as it defends 4 very well. I mean, again, it didn't hold it in the strict sense. I think the low of the area is 396. I think that's quite reasonable for a $4 defend, and right back into the $quarter-ish. It goes back into the teens. We're still technically putting in lower highs because we haven't taken out prior bar high. I'm talking about the 1125 candle on the 5-minute chart, the high of which is 425. Current bar high, 422. So we still have a bit of a downtrend, but the way I see it, that $4 area is being well defended for the moment. Consolidative sideways, but nonetheless, 4 is being defended. I want to also point out this one here, DEFT. Someone just brought this to my attention. It's not an aggressive mover by any stretch of the imagination. Let me just actually put it on. DEFT, pardon me, DEFT. This one is up only about, I want to say 26.5%, but which is a reasonable amount to be up. 66.5 pennies is the high of the day, showing 65. The reason I show this to you guys is it's not the most appetizing, but it's quite respectful of trend. So if you're able to kind of view it on the level 2 and it's an acceptable spread that you can stomach within your trading parameters, one to have a look at. But it's the ALDX show. SATL continues to hover pretty much at highs, 1 or 2 penny below the high. Here we are, 1 penny now below the high, and then BIAF. PTLE did halt up. I said little about this. I'm not going to really want to get involved with PTLE until and if it holds and holds well above the volume weighted average price. Currently, you know, look at the VWAP, 10 EMA, and 20 EMA. They're all pointing to the side. They're neither pointing up nor down. So this means sort of we're in an equilibrium right now where we're trendless, I want to say. There seems to be a buyer at 8.5, but look at the range. We're talking about $10 range to 8.5. I need this to halt up, and then maybe we'll catch one of those aggressive halters that we got a whole bunch of last week, starting with SWMR, of course, at IPO. We're going to pause for a second. Joey and I, we're going to send it to Adara with the crypto segment.
Another week, another round of purchases here by some of these digital treasury plays. Let's start here by talking about Ethereum. Here is our friend Tom Lee, who's of course with Bitmine Immersion. Bitmine Immersion picking up a whole bunch more Ethereum last week, 65,341 ETH tokens. They now hold over 4.66 million tokens. Now we have to look at another friendly face in crypto. This is Michael Saylor, who of course is the chairman of MicroStrategy, or now known as Strategy. Their company picked up 1,031 Bitcoins last week. Their total now over 762,000. So tons of purchases here by some of these major crypto companies. Now let's take a look at Bitcoin itself. This daily chart, now as Sharif and Brendo were saying this morning, a lot of this move in crypto does have to do with these geopolitical headlines. Nice pop this morning for BTC, initially opening this session just below 68,000. Current high of the session just below 72K. Now this, of course, happens as we get President Trump announcing in a Truth Social post that he's actually been in discussions with Iran, and there's going to be a 5-day pause on the U.S. targeting any of these Iranian power plants. We'll take a look at Ethereum to see how it's doing. ETH, I mean, last week, or I guess early last week, we did have this push here into near 2,400. We were pulled back quite a bit away from there, but right now hanging out around that key 2,200 level, which has served as resistance for Ethereum going back to early March. So keep an eye here on Bitcoin and Ethereum. These names certainly moving in tandem with a lot of these geopolitical announcements.
Yes, thank you very much. Joey, what are you looking at, brother?
Talking to Mike P, he's telling me my family might know another family in Jamaica, but we're in the country. We're not really that close to the water, to be honest with you. Salt River, it's just a pond that I was telling you guys about from before. It's our closest body, really, until you drive to the coast. So, all right, guys, there's a nice pullback in AMD. I didn't get out. It almost got back to my break even, but what I've seen is that the volume was relatively cool, and I'm like, is this going to be a little bit of a squeeze here? And then I got my eye on, obviously, the other names. Tesla's still starting to sell. Looks like it's putting in somewhat of a top. And then NVDA, almost about to touch the volume-weighted average price. We're also about to head right in towards this trend line once again. So let's see if this is going to be the attempt that we break it. I like this momentum. If it climbs back higher, breaks that previous pivot, then it might be best for us to get out and reassess the situation. But the way that this is looking currently, I think we might be, I think the odds might be slightly in our favor here for that potential breakdown. It may not be a continued one. I may not give up a little bit of this here from what you got from this morning. But I think at this point, some volatility may be stepping in right here. We better get right back over to these charts and see what we got going on, because I seen that that flutter, but no, it doesn't seem to necessarily be the case, guys. I only took 30% off, so I'm still rolling on around 70. I'm waiting for a new low, and then I'm going to take out substantially more to the point where it's like, hey, you can breathe a little bit better, and you're cool runnings with leaving a little bit of a runner there, Sharif, considering we got all the island talk going on. There we go. We're right back to where we were before. Maybe we will piece a little bit more off. I typically like to wait for a lower price, but if we continuously bounce off of this level, then I don't love that. So there we go. Now I'm sitting on exactly 50% of my position, which I'm cool with. Woosah, you can now take a little bit deeper of a breath, and if we get the breakdown, then it's all cash.
Cash money.
So yeah, other than that, look at NVDA go, guys. Really aggressive slide. Also, put it in the chat what you guys are looking at if you want to go over some options chain. But we were talking about the open interest about this, on this name not too long ago. Really starting to cool off from what we experienced last week, and I think this can give it a little bit of room to run throughout the trading week and the trading sessions.
All right, guys, I'm continuing to watch BIAF. I'll talk about PTLE in a second here, but BIAF has a monster seller at the $0.25. So look at the nature of the prior candle. It's like flat top-ish. This is very unusual. Look at this, because it was a bottoming tail, kind of a hammer candle. You can kind of see the aggressive selling at 25, and it's not the first time we've had trouble there. I realize we've been above it, but look at this candle over there, right into 424. I'm talking about the 11 a.m. candle that rejected the $0.25 initially. But look at the selling here at the $0.25. My days, BIAF, right into the $0.25. Here it is at 26s. Let's take a quick look. Right back down it goes. Let's see if there's a continuation. Can we really decimate the seller who's in and around the $0.25? It feels like if we take him out, this one's going to rupture to the high side, but at least not at the moment, because you keep seeing the bid drop below. There it goes. Now into 435. Don't forget, 441 is the high of the day. So here we go. We've got higher lows. We've got higher highs now. We have respect for the 10 moving average on the 5, which it held very well. Even with that big red candle at 1120 that stopped me out for the last remaining amount. The trend is still very much intact on BIAF, and this one could be at 4.5, if not 5. So you need to account for that here, especially if we can kind of clear and hold above this 420. We didn't really hold much at all above 420 when I kind of caught this one into 440. Look how very clear it shows that that 20, 25 penny area is where the sellers are, in the same way that it shows that 4 are where the buyers are. But we're above it now. It looks like we're stair-stepping up, and this could be the breakout right now on BIAF. So be on the lookout there. And then separately, SATL has dropped right back in to the 10 EMA on the 5. It looks like they're selling at 43. I'd be on the lookout for that. And then last but not least, PTLE. Just before we go up to the big desk, I wanted to point out here that there's a very clear buyer. Well, BIAF just took out the highs. Look at these 3 bottoming tails candles in a row. So the 1120 bar, buyer at 856. The 1125 buyer at 856. And then take a look at the 1130 buyer at buyer at 862. So here we go again, dropping back down to 9. That 850 area, I want to say, you know, a little bit higher, 855, 860. There's a monster buyer on PTLE there. Now, this is a very bamboozling candle. It breaches prior bar high. It even takes out the 1125 bar high. And now it's turning into an inverse hammer candle, topping tail, coming down into 9. I don't think that changes the narrative, though, at around 850, 8 2/3. So keep your eye on PTLE, possible money area, money buy, money fill, you want to call it. But BIAF into the high, Joey, 448, looking to go 450. We're going up to Adara.
I just want to preface this with, these are the same kind of comments we've been hearing from Iran, but I'm seeing it circulate more here, so I do want to mention this once again. IRNA reporting that Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson saying that Iran has not been speaking to the U.S. They're calling President Trump a quote-unquote liar, saying that these conversations did not happen. Now, apparently, I guess friendly countries sent messages to Iran saying that the U.S. has requested talks to end the war, but Iran is saying that they did not respond and that their position on the Strait of Hormuz remains unchanged. So once again, Iran unequivocally saying, again, according to Iranian state media, that they have not been talking to President Trump and the U.S., saying that the U.S. has been trying to negotiate, but they're not interested. Back to you.
Thank you very much for that, Adara. There it goes. I mean, we took that off, so we were sitting on 50% of our position at the volume-weighted average price, and then left the other 50 for a runner. I'm not sitting on very much right now, around probably about 30% or so at this point. So it's continuing to slide here, guys. A nice little look on AMD. We're just going back to what we were seeing on Friday, right? From Friday selling. Let's take a little bit more off, and then sure enough, we're going to leave this 10-15% for a little bit of some more fun as the market is really starting to slide, and that downtrend snapped here in AMD. Look at that, boom, as soon as that broke, I know Neil will like that one, a steady uptrend, boom, you're on the backside of that, and then now you're getting that momentum really start to accelerate here in AMD, and then look at NVDA go as well to the downside, going to give back the majority of this move, so not too bad of a look. And it was the same thing. So we'll kind of take a couple steps back here and see what I was getting at. So we had this nice move up, but to me, the price action was relatively weak. So at this peak right here, at the break of this support level, we'll put it at around 206.05. I'm like, all right, let's take an attempt on the short. Nope, no go. So we get we play the break of the support level, right? And I typically say, hey, don't sell the lower end of the range. What did I do? I sold the lower end of the range, totally fine, but I was also prepared to get out once I was proven wrong and that momentum uptick didn't come into play. So we got out, we took another attempt on it, right? So as we were up here on this consolidation, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe we failed to construct a new high, a lower high. Sellers are a little bit more aggressive here and stronger stepping in. Nope, we get stopped out one more time, but then as soon as we triple topped, I'm like, all right, this is my green light to go, and let's put the full size on this trade. And that's exactly what we did and then some. So I'm happy. I actually risked a little bit less than half my shutdown on that specific trade. On the other trades, it was literally like 10% of my shutdown on that one. So just really getting into that exponential bet sizing. When you see something set up, you have to try to take advantage of it. And sure enough, we were fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time. Again, another $5 super chat. Caller me shocked at the news, Adara. UVIX to the moon, diamond hands. It's pronounced Moyer, by the way. All right, Moyer. All right, more money then. That's what we want to see. Moyer, more money. Thank you very much, my friend. I hope everything's going good. You said UVIX to the moon. Sounds like you're having a pretty solid day. And that's all we want to hear. I hope everything's going good.
All right, guys. Super pumped about this risk calculator. I want to show it off again. So this is what we made. Now, what I'm going to be changing. So number one, this is actually using Yahoo Finance live data. And I was actually surprised that it's actually live. It's supposed to be delayed, but it's actually giving me very, very accurate live data relative to what I'm seeing on my platform. I'm comparing it to IB, I'm comparing it to P8, and it's giving me live data. Now, I had the actual option to run it with my platform with IB, and it would be able to kind of take the data from Trader Workstation, throw it into there. What I'm looking at doing though are, number one, a couple of things. I want to see the dollar value for my 1R, my 2R, my 3R, so it shows me what to be expecting in terms of profits at those levels. Now, the other thing that I want to change as well is to lock in these 1Rs. I like how they're live. They're changing with the price, like the share size is changing with the price, but I also want to have the option using like a radio key or something like that, a toggle on-off switch, to shut it and to kind of be like, okay, so for example, say I got in at 426 here on BIAF. Well, now it's showing me the 1R for 424. So I want to be able to kind of shut it so that it just shows me for the price that I got in at. So that was one other thing that I want to put. But I tried to actually connect this to our API so that it execute directly through it. I made some gains, but it was just like, what is really the point? The point for me was to be able to see the live data, not to actually execute, directly into the platform. To me, the most important parts were, number one, how much I wanted to risk per trade, and two, what the stop loss is, right? And then it can give me the share size relative to the live data. And if you know anything about P8, for example, like look, I just hit this, what's this thing called again? The name of the keyboard?
The squiggly line one?
You know what I mean? Obi knows the name of it. Anyway, you hit this little squiggly key beside the one, and then bottom left, you can kind of see my share size there. So I can say 250, I can say 50, 550, whatever. And then I can just execute through hotkeys. So that was really never the issue. The issue for me was to be able to see what the actual R&R was and the share size based upon current price, because it was just moving so fast. So tilde, that's it, tilde. Thank you guys for that. Yeah, I do appreciate it. Thanks, Jay Lee. Squiggly key equals tilde. Yeah, I remember Obi always would point out the name of that, but I couldn't remember what it was called. In any event, yeah, so work in progress, but it is working out quite well, and it's giving me live data, and that's really all that I cared about, so I don't even need to change that. Now, it has a couple of deficiencies. One, the data is not live in the pre-market. I tested it out this morning for equities anyway. It's not live in the pre-market, nor does it have aftermarket data, like in the strict aftermarket, and also Blue Ocean. What it did have though was crypto, and I was actually able to test this yesterday because I was vibe coding this at home, not here, and I was able to test it on Solana, I was able to test it on ETH, BTC, worked out great. Obviously, it didn't really give me too much in the way of shares, otherwise I'd be risking thousands and thousands, which wasn't the case, obviously. But yeah, it did help. Yeah, shout out to Frank Trades, thank you for that, brother.
Dude, I was vibe coding yesterday.
What were you vibe coding?
I got all my things here. You want to see?
Your algo?
Yeah, I got all of them. It's amazing. I love it. They're all right here.
What language is that?
That's Python. I mean PineScript.
Oh,
dude. These ones are big, so I had to put them in text, but I have all of them.
Can I just ask a quick question? Yeah. Are you rating them on TradingView? Are they back testing them on TradingView?
Yeah, nice, but now it's hooked up to, one of them is hooked up to
P?
No,
Dash?
TWS API.
Oh.
That's why I was here the other night. Jose
Hold on, so you actually got it to connect to the API, eh? I was having trouble doing that.
It's not that easy.
No,
the way Jose is doing it's like, how would anybody who didn't have any form of knowledge figure this out?
Well, I mean, and it just like, I kept screenshotting. So what it did, it created a debugging window for me. So in the app that I was vibe coding, it gave me like a debugging prompt window so that any of the errors coming back from the exchange would be there. So you could just copy those and then put them in. But it was so tedious.
It's difficult. You have to save it as a file and have it, and then plug it into command prompt. But Claude is, dude, okay, so what I was getting at here, what I was just saying, Gemini. Garbage for coding.
For vibe coding.
For vibe coding,
that's what
garbage.
I'm using, actually.
Yeah, garbage. ChatGPT, not too bad. Claude will tell you pretty much everything.
Says that.
Everybody
says that. Yeah.
But yeah, here they are, man. These ones are in files, but these are the three that I'm gonna have run. This one's already plugged in. So
what are they? You want to give us a little bit of an idea?
Yeah, I'll show you guys momentarily. Yeah, I'm gonna
give us like an idea. Like what's the strategy on one? What's the strategy
it's very simple. Okay, so the one is just essentially VPA signal, so it's like hammer candles at extreme lows. Then the other one's the inverse of that for downtrend, right? One works right, so it's just the inverse of that. And then I have a 5-minute orb strategy that is now complete. So it's just essentially if the I'll give away some of the criteria. It's no secret at the end of the day. So if the first 5-minute candle closes 75% of the value as the body, then it will take a long or short, depending.
I love that.
Depending.
Did you backtest that data, like to see like?
Well, I ran it through. I haven't forward tested it on thing, but yeah, I'm back testing on TradingView.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like you did that 75% for a reason. You must have seen that.
Yeah, I was doing so it wasn't triggering very much. So I was having like 90%, and then I was messing around with 65.
Nice.
But then kind of where it found its most efficiency was in that 75%.
Makes sense.
75%.
Makes sense.
Wasn't triggering enough for the anything north of 80.
No, eh?
I mean, which isn't bad. The high, it had a pretty good profit factor. Like the typical win was relatively high. But when the candle closes so bullish, it also, because I have risk parameters involved in it, is that it would make the risk to reward too wide. That you need a substantially larger move in order to hit like 2-to-1s and stuff like that.
I thought you were gonna say like you had run the data and that when 75% of the candle was covered by the subsequent candle, then A would happen or B would happen. That's what I thought you meant.
So what happens? So what happens is we'll go to Adara and then we'll go to Adara and then we'll come back and talk about it.
The Middle East saga continues. Over the last probably 5 to 10 minutes or so, I've seen reports of an explosion here at U.S. bases in Kuwait. So there do look like there's going to be some more strikes here, but I do want to mention these headlines that just came through less than a minute ago from the Financial Times, reporting that the Army Chief of Pakistan spoke with President Trump on Sunday. Furthermore, senior Pakistani officials reportedly back-channeling communications between Tehran and Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, the latter two of whom, of course, are these, they're going to be major Middle East envoys or communication leads here for the U.S. So again, these Financial Times reports do suggest, in addition to some other reports from Axios that we've seen, that senior Pakistani officials are in communications here with the U.S. Again, reportedly Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner in particular. Makes sense that it would be these two. So yeah, once again, Iran basically saying we have not spoken to the U.S., but it does seem like at least other factions here within the Middle East or other countries are speaking with the U.S. If I get more details, I'll let you know. Again, this most recent report coming from the Financial Times, but more or less backing up reports from Axios and to a lesser extent the Jerusalem Post that we saw earlier today. Back to you.
Thank you very much.
So just to briefly touch on that one more time. So essentially what happens is if the candle closes, the value of the candle is 75% of the body in either direction, what happens is that it will play the break of the close regardless of its bullish or bearish in each direction. It's very, very structural and what's the word I'm looking for? Not subjective, objective. Objective. Right? Like it's that simplistic. That's the move. Like it's very a simplistic strategy, but something that I monitored for a long time. I'm not a quant. I know.
But that is quantitative. You just did that. Yeah. It's interesting. Good for you.
And then to plug it in. So what has to be done if you're vibe coding on GPT is that now that has to be translated into. It has to be transitioned into Python. And then Python, you save it as a file because TWS is a Python code. So then you plug that in as a file, use your command prompt, make sure that the computer can read the command prompt, and then that's when you can plug it in into the API.
Same thing with
TWS. Holy shit! There goes
oh my Lanta.
Yeah, look at that Lanta over there, Sharif. That we're really selling right now. I'm only sitting on about 5% of the position left here, guys. If that. So we'll take some more off there, guys. A big time move. On AMD as the market is really starting to slide here, guys. Nice little short. So here it is. We'll break it down.
Go.
Break it down now. Yeah, there you go. So 71, right? I was in at 71s on the first attempt. Stopped out at 81s, 10 cents worth of risk, okay? Same thing here, 83. I get out a little bit early at that breakout at 97 cents right there. So I'm in here at 93 one more time, risking to 1303, 10 cents. And then now we're approximately at 1244. So that's about 50 cents right there. So two small losses would triple the size, essentially almost a 5-to-1. Obviously, I partialed out here, so it doesn't necessarily count. But at that point, from a risk to reward ratio and a standpoint, we are holding on to about 5% of the position right now.
Man, USO is just, my
flying
days.
right now?
It's down 7 3/4. It was.
I thought it would maybe get a little bit of a pop here.
Yeah, it's into VWAP, so this is really interesting. This could be an interesting level. Guys, I'm continuing to watch BIAF as well, as that one just broke through the $0.50. What a clean hold this has been at the 10 EMA on the 5, and there it goes again into another high of the day. 464. This one feels like it's on the way to 5. It could be on the way to more. There's the breakout. The shorts are in trouble here. What a monster move into $0.75. Seller at 72 locally. And/or profit taker. Watch out at 72. Zigging and zagging into the high 60s it goes. But this one feels like it's on its horse and could be on its way into the $0.75 just got taken out. Now we're talking 4/5. Here we go. We're close to the whole dollar. Let's see if we can clear the 90s area, 85. The breakout is on now, guys. BIAF squeezing out the shorts. This is one of the bigger green candles, I want to say, on the day, especially if it closes near the highs at this level. Fantastic. Shout out to my man Adam. Check USO. We were just talking about it, brother. I was just telling Joey that, you know, this one's weaseling back into the volume weighted average price. USO is what Adam is talking about, but it just took out VWAP. I wouldn't say it's taking it out decisively, Adam. It had a tendency, at least earlier on, when it did retrace into VWAP, to kind of wick through it, but this looks like it's a bit of a different look, so be careful here. USO could be changing its tune. It's down now 7.5% as it gets back into that 112.25. I just want to mention, I forgot to mention, sorry, that I'm involved in not SATL, AL, TO. I'm looking for a move here above the $0.50. It's showing me 52s. The high of the day is 53. I'm waiting at 55. If it breaches the double bottom that it put in at 1135 and 1140, the low of which there is 47s, it ends the trade for me. I'm in at 48. So we'll pack the patience here. We'll see if we can take out some selling. There is definitely selling at 52, 53. Let's see if we can take those out. We're going to go back to the big desk with Adair.
More details here coming out in this back and forth between the U.S. and Iran. Now, as of a couple of minutes ago, though, it's just starting to circulate on social media now, we did get a response on X from MB Galibaf. Again, this was the individual who was named as the negotiator in Iran for these reported talks with Iran and the U.S. over, I guess, this next coming weekend or the coming days. Galibaf saying on social media that there have been no negotiations held with the U.S. and that fake news is being used to manipulate the financial and oil markets and to escape the quagmire, these are his words, of course, that the U.S. and Israel are trapped in. So again, we do have Galibaf, who again is the individual that was named as the negotiator from Iran for these reported talks with Iran and the U.S. and Pakistan. He's saying, nope, these talks have not been held. The markets are using fake news for manipulative purposes. Back to you.
Yeah, crazy stuff, man. Some nice moves here. We'll hit we haven't hit this one yet today, so we'll throw up the Stone Cold. But a nice little move there on AMDL. I mean, it's up 1% here, so we're only around 0.5% left on AMD, and it's giving back the majority of that uptick that we experienced in the pre-market. I wasn't watching it. I had to drop my vehicle off this morning at the old break my wallet there.
That's so annoying.
So annoying,
bro.
dude.
I hate to put it this way, but there's you know, when the car does its thing, we're going quadruple digits. It's always $1,000.
Oh yeah. Easy, brother. There's no. That's the least you can expect, man.
Yeah.
And I told Buddy not to call me until after 2 o'clock, anyways. So yeah.
He hasn't called yet, has he?
No. I said don't call after.
Did you go to the same guy you went to last time for the insurance one?
No, because I can't go back there.
Why?
Did I tell you what happened?
No.
Okay, so anyways, so they sent me the work order and everything, right? So I said, okay, they're like, no problem. They sent the work order to their mechanic.
Right.
So anyways, I e-transfer the insurance company.
Sure.
Anyways, Buddy fixes the car.
Yeah.
But then he fixed too much
That's
on it.
not your problem.
Not my fault. So anyway.
He wants money from you?
No, the insurance company called me and said like, hey, they did more work on there.
You tell them
what they were supposed to. But yeah, he's like, but when I went there and I went and picked up my keys, he's like, did you pay the insurance company? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, no problem. I showed him the receipt of me paying and everything like that. He's like, no problem. Hands me the keys. A couple weeks later, they call me and they're like, hey, yeah, you fixed too much on it. You owe us another $800.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And they're like, yeah, buddy, we're gonna put a lien on your car.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay, good. Yeah, I'm like, good luck. Yeah, I'm like, good luck with that essentially. So no lien on the car because I have the receipts and I showed everything everything that I paid.
It's a lot harder to put liens on stuff now too.
You know what I mean?
People were doing that a lot.
I'm like, what, for $800? It's not my fault, essentially. So, but so yeah, I can't go back
quite frankly, the fact that you have your hand in the insurance company's pockets is a welcome freaking change, my guy.
We'll hit the money on
because usually
that
their
one.
hand is in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's usually very little you can do about it.
So I can't go back there anymore.
I'm loving to hear. I love that story. I want to hear that again, man. That's a great story, guys. BIAF touched 5. Let's just call it 5. 497 high. It's turning into a doji candle now into 480. We probably come back in a little bit. The way that I see this is the first level of support on BIAF for me anyway. If it does fail 5, first and foremost, that's a big if. We're coming back into 450, and that to me is creating a bit of a buy zone. I want to say from 450 to 440 currently, because 450 psychological support, right? Initially resistance, and then 440 is what you're seeing as a 10 EMA. And quite frankly, when you look at this a little bit more, the wicks go up to 450. But look where all the closing prints on the candle from 11:15 to 11:45 are. They're all south of 440. So step number 1, we need a failure here at $5. The way I see that is you need a new candle to open up, which we're going to open up here in less than a minute. That makes a new low. The low, the current candle is 472. So you dip down maybe possibly into the low 60s, high 50s. That could be a buy zone. So keep your eye out on that. BIAF is the one I'm talking about. And then SER, shout out to Cool Brioche. I had this one up initially, and then I just kind of took it off because it lost trend, but it's regained it. It's moved back above the volume weighted average price, showing at 296. It's retaken $3. It's also breached prior area high. I'm talking about that moving candle, that topping tail candle that breached VWAP at 1030. It's taken that out. It's got a symphony of higher lows and higher highs. So SER should be in focus here. We'll see if it can maneuver into the highs. And then the one that I'm involved in, ALTO, just got into the high of the day again. 254, much slower of a mover though, is ALLO up 22.5%. I'm looking to wet the beak here at 55, packing the patience. But right before we go to Adara and happening now, Neil's lesson of the day, what a move up for BIAF. It's trying to take out $5 here, 497 high. This current candle is also 497, so we just retested the highs. Watch out though for prior bar low breach, that is 472, so keep your eye out on that. My man Draco's dropping $100. Oh my days. Oh,
brother, and he's from one of my favorite American cities too.
Which one? Dallas?
No, Chi-Town.
I'm sorry. Because he hates Dallas, Neil. Sharif, here's a tip just for you. Thanks for mentioning BIAF. Made a quick 4K. Dinner on me. Peace. What up, Joe? That's stupid amounts of money, man. You're getting that spun again, man. That is ridiculous. Shout out to my man Dracos, who's making us all look like amateurs.
As much as I was, yeah, big time. Way to go, Dragos, man. That's what we like. We like seeing those 5-figure days, brother. Our 4-figure days, brother. Nice work on that one. You know what I was thinking? I was looking at my old Weather Network app the other day over the weekend.
Were you looking at the satellite radar? I know
I was more or less looking at Dallas temperature, Austin.
And
34, 35
like
Celsius.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I was just thinking, I'm like, man, can I really hate on it?
Exactly. Now, you might hate it in the summer, though, because it's a little bit too hot. But I know you're all about that life. You're about that life. All right.
I think we're going there relatively soon. Yes, but, guys, look at AMD tank, market tanking, USO, Adam James, you mentioned it, back up towards the volume-weighted average price, but a tank city, sink city, whatever you would like to call city here on AMDL.
So much back and forth here between the U.S. and Iran, and it's certainly impacting the markets. S&P 500, initially pretty strong start to the day. Looks like around 11 a.m., that's when we make this intraday high, and then the market starts to push lower, and actually sharply lower on that last 15-minute candle that begun at 11:45 a.m. Now, why was this the case? A lot of the headlines that led to this back and forth have to do with this man. His name is Mohammed Bagher Galibaf, Galibaf, and he is Iran's parliament speaker. He's also a veteran of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Now, why he factors into things is because I think just before 11 a.m., as we start to get that pushback higher in the market and a push lower in oil, we get reports from Axios and the Jerusalem Post suggesting that there's going to be a meeting in Pakistan pretty soon. Iran's going to be sending this individual, Galibaf, as its lead for the negotiating team. The U.S. would be sending a team featuring Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, as well as maybe even Vice President J.D. Vance. Now, about probably 10 minutes ago or so now, we do get comments from Galibaf on social media saying that this isn't true, this is fake news, it's being used to manipulate the oil market, and that Iran basically wants to humiliate its enemies, to use his terms, and a slightly less harsh version of what he said. So he is responsible for a lot of this oil back and forth. Oil right now, of course, USO, not near session highs, I guess sort of near session highs, not at session highs anyway, but nice rebound here as we get Galibaf coming out and saying this isn't true. We've also had denial from Iran multiple times that it actually ever had any kind of negotiations with the U.S. Another headline that we got earlier today, though not anything that's massively market moving, is from NVIDIA. This came out from the information roughly an hour ago, so just after that midday session begun. Information reporting that NVIDIA's new server rack is going to be running AI chips made by rivals, including AMD and Google. So not all the news is oil related, though a lot of it is going to kind of relate back to those Middle East conflicts. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and stay tuned for Neil's lesson of the day. Neil, what should the people expect from today's lesson?
Well, Adara, thank you for that. And what they should expect out of today's lesson is a reminder. I think Dallas, I don't know what got said in the midday just now by Joe and Sharif, but I like Dallas, man. Nice city, been there a few times, it's fantastic. But there was actually something, and just get back to the market for a second. There was something that happened in the middle of the morning show, and oftentimes whenever I'm talking about the lesson of the day or like the thing that I decided to discuss here for a few minutes, it's usually, I want it to be something that either I saw or I thought was interesting this morning, if I can, not always. But in particular, someone said something interesting, and it was Neil talks himself out of a lot of trades. So I want to remind everybody that a lot of what we do here, we're sitting there, we're showing you the things that we're paying attention to, the stocks that we're trading, and our ideas and thoughts, and we're speaking out loud what's inside of our heads. So obviously sometimes there's going to be stuff that on a normal day, if we weren't broadcasting, I'd probably just keep it to myself in my head, and I wouldn't be saying it out loud. But you know what? It's very true. Absolutely, I talk myself out of a lot of trades. And I think as a trader, you should. What is a trade in the first place? You're talking yourself into something based on something you see. Like, oh, I see X, Y, and Z, so therefore I'm going to take a long in this particular stock. I need to see A, B, C, and I'm going to jump into a short. And you, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to show you exactly why you need to have the ability to talk yourself out of something. Look at BAIF. I love trend break trades. So here's a stock that going upside, there's a big volume spike in the middle of the day, sets a new trend on volume, right? Here's the biggest volume candle, followed by the second biggest one, failing the high, and then right after that, it breaks the trend line. There's a confirmation of a trend line break, so why am I not short this name? Well, because it's not part of my radar. Like, it's not an A-plus trade. Yes, technically it sets up like a bunch of other mean reversion stuff that I would normally do, but it's on a small cap gapper when realistically there's some higher level stuff going on here where it's a potential bigger squeeze and it hasn't really extended too far away from the volume weighted average price. Like, it's a little tight to VWAP. And given the fact that the volatility is higher in a small cap gapper, like if I take a reversion trade, I want it to be further from VWAP because I like it to be really overextended so that you have some good risk to reward coming back in. So I would talk myself out of that trade. I would also venture to say, I talked myself out of a 21 short on SMCI. I like the 21 level on SMCI. I said this morning I was short right off the bat. It was my first short, break down to the low. But then I said I'd like 21. I talked myself out of that trade because I didn't like the market dynamic of it. Was it wrong to do that? Sure. Right to do that? Yes. But it's not even about right or wrong. In this particular case, it was the right thing to do. But that almost doesn't matter. It's that I have to have that conversation. It went to the level that I liked. Is that really enough to put on a trade? Is that as simple as it gets? Like, I'm sitting here at 7 a.m. in the morning and going over the trades that I like and the levels that I like, and SMCI which when I sit down is trading near 21 and showing that resistance, like, okay, well, if it retraces to that, I want to go pop and fade. Well, the first thing it did is break down to the low at the open and then trend up into that 21. Like, so I'm going to automatically just sit there on the offer in front of 21? No. So yeah, I'm going to talk myself out of that trade. And I could be right or wrong, but you've got to make that kind of a decision. I'm never going to just blindly, or I don't think any trader should, just blindly be beholden to some idea that you had earlier or some price level that you happen to think is pretty cool or whatever it might be. I just think you've got to be a little bit more nuanced than that. Another example here would be, and this is, okay, well, now you're getting annoying, Rivian, because Rivian was kind of hoping Rivian would hold this. But it didn't, so I wanted 3 points on that trend line. I ended up short Rivian this morning, kind of been out of nowhere, trend up trade that did get past the volume weighted average price for a retrace. But then I decided not to go long. Off here, I talked myself out of that based on the market dynamic at the time. And that ended up being the right decision. Now, I also possibly am talking myself out of, and again, sometimes it is what it is, and I don't want to talk myself out of this one, but boil. Because all morning long, I said to myself, I'm only shorting, I want VWAP, give me the volume weighted average price. Like, I looked at it, respect the volume weighted average price in both directions on Friday, and then today, I don't get this secondary crack at the volume weighted average price. So at this point, I have to make a decision. Do I want to just respect VWAP because it's broken the downward trend, or do I want to respect the levels it's showing me at 16.6? And the way I'm kind of framing it for myself is if it regains underneath the trend line, I'll probably go short. Otherwise, wait for the volume weighted average price. The whole point of trading is a lot of times it comes to a key price level and you just got to make a decision. Sometimes it gets to VWAP and it's like, I'm going short. And I'm going to play off of it. Sometimes, like on Rivian, I make the distinction not to go into the long. For right or wrong, you've got to absorb what is in front of you, take all the factors in that you can, and your previous experience and all of your trading history to date, and make the best call that you can. You're not going to be right 100% of the time. But I think you should always be having an ongoing conversation with yourself. Whether you like a trade, how much you like it, is it A+, is it B, is it C, like whatever that might be, and whatever that means to you. I just don't think that you should be so, I don't know what the right word to use is. Like, overconfident isn't the right word. I think single-minded would be the right word. That just because you liked something before, or it got to a level that you happen to say was interesting, that nothing could have changed in the last 2 or 3 hours. And it doesn't mean that you throw every single idea out there. But I'll tell you this right now. I can't think of the number of times that stock at a price that I thought was going to be gangbusters at the open, it gets to that level later on in the day, and you just get rinsed trying it because it's a different market 4 hours later. So just remember, you have reasons to get into a trade and reasons to get out. You always ask yourself, are they still valid? If the answer is no, then that's fine. Move on to the next opportunity. That's how you can be consistent, man. I got no complaints today. You know, you'll never be perfect, but all you're trying to be is green at the end of the day. All right, I'm going to throw you guys back to the midday. That was the lesson of the day. The chicken parm. Look, I know I've already finished the chicken parm. Too much. I wasn't a huge fan of this. Not a huge fan of the pasta. Chicken parm was a little, I'm going to say, chewy. It just didn't hit right. I don't know how to give it anything other than like a 5.8 here. And I'm disappointed because I feel like I was excited that we were getting something different. But it's a 5.8 for me for today's lunch. Although I haven't had my little salad looks okay. I haven't had that yet, so. It's incomplete because I haven't had the salad, but for the chicken parm and the pasta, I'll give it a 5.8.
The 5.8 is a bit concerning here, but let's get into these headlines. Iranian media coming out here and saying that Iran's Revolutionary Guards have launched a new attack on targets in Israel and a U.S. base in the Middle East. So again, Iran's Revolutionary Guards, according to Iranian media, have launched a new attack on targets in Israel and a U.S. base within the region. Furthermore, also according to Iranian media, Iranians Revolutionary Guards saying that the contradictory behavior, in their words, coming from President Trump does not cause any negligence on the war front. So regardless of this back and forth coming from President Trump, Iran basically saying they're going to stick with their goals and continue to take out their targets. Back to the midday.
Perfect. Perfect.
Assassino, Fabian's just helped me.
Yeah, all right, yeah, we'll rock and roll here. Sorry, guys, I was just doing a little something trying to get these over. I don't know why it's saying error now. The fact that I've been using this one for quite some time. Maybe we'll plug a different one in there and see what we got going on. Just having a little bit of fun, guys. This is just essentially like where we're gonna get really rocking and rolling here momentarily. I mean, it's eliminating some of the discretionary. This works here. Bang. All right, that's what we want to see. Some good stuff there, guys. What I'll do now is I'll just pull it up. It's Pine script, some basic stuff. This is a fixed rate. What do it, CRC? This isn't the one that I necessarily wanted to pull up on. I have to fix some of the criteria on it as well, too. Just considering, but yeah, a certain amount of share size. Like, we can go over there and do it now. Settings, this is taking one share, like get that garbage out of here. Who wants that? We'll do default of 100. And then you could just see how it just drastically changes. It doesn't work the best on all of them, absolutely not, right? But we could just kind of get a general idea of essentially what we got going on. Profit factor, 36 trades right in the span of a month. How do I get rid of this thing here? Don't want that. So yeah, I mean, profit factor of 1.3, that's not bad whatsoever. What's our win rate on this one? 47%. I mean, that's totally reasonable, and you can see just March 23rd. We'll take a look at the entry on this one and the exits and everything along those lines. So this one, oh, okay, so yeah, entry, boom, takes the short, gets stopped. Oh, what is going on here? Why is it doing that? Why are you embarrassing me there? Okay, so here's one, right? Like a basic stuff going to the short side, not too bad. Some of the larger moves and everything along those lines. But again, you're shooting at a 47% clip rate, right? Like we have to take into consideration, that's pretty good. Especially if you just created, so this is all the strategy is. It's the most simplistic one. You have that bullish candle being formed. You want to play the break of it and just sit in it, which me personally, even though we've been sitting in this AMD trade for quite some time, with the full amount of size to actual targets, makes things a little bit more difficult. So here's another one right there. Some of the entries are a little bit wonky, but if you go across the board, the majority of them work relatively well. All right, so it doesn't work perfect on every single one. Like, look at a 50% clip rate, essentially. Profit factor of 1.1. So for every trade that you take, you're also, for every 2 trades, you're going to lose one, win one, but you do end up positive at the end of the month, a little bit more than that. So I've just been going across. It doesn't perform very well on the NASDAQ, which I wanted it to perform a little bit better on, which is totally fine, not too bad. You take some, but the really difficult thing here is picking your basket of stocks that you want to essentially execute the strategy on. So not too bad. Some of the entries are still slightly delayed, and this is my orb strat that we coded, but it's picking up a lot of things. And I went over, so that's another beautiful print over there on Robinhood as well too. And you can see that it enters at the break, and then sure enough, it hits that 2-to-1 profit target. But essentially what I was doing over the weekend, and I was plugging a lot of the algos that I did create. I have 3 now, working on a 4th, which is essentially the same thing, is that Gemini was giving me the most amount of errors out of all of them. Yeah, Gemini was giving me the most.
Funny enough, that's like the one that I was only using. I'd probably get a...
Well, I mean, we kind of have 2 differently, kind of working on 2 different things, right? Like I'm trying to get a Pine script to plug into something else. Something else, right?
Guys, we got a poll up, a new poll, shed it to Fabian.
Oh.
I want to know what you guys are trading. If you're trading small caps, throw in 1s into the chat. If you're all about that large cap life, you love Apples, Googles, throw in 2. How about my crypto traders? That includes your IBIT traders as well as some other ETFs. Type in 3 if you're a futures traders, and I'm going to go ahead and say the triple Qs, the TQs, the S triple Qs. We'll just categorize those as futures. I know the purists will disagree with me, and I'm not going to put up a fight with that. Type in 4. How about the metals? You got USO. crypto. Yeah, well, I should put commodities instead of metals, but GLD is down 2.8. SLV is up 0.5. I'd like to hear what you guys are trading. The metals traders, throw in 5. The futures traders, throw in 4. The crypto traders, 3. If you're a large cap lover, you're going to throw in 2. And if
Are we
you're a
doing that
small
now?
cap sniper, it says type 4. Assassino. Oh, then I got to tell Fabian
Why is everyone
about
writing
that.
4? I thought we'd have a lot more 3s in there. Small
Crypto?
cap.
Yeah, I'll tell Fabian about
I'll
that.
throw
So
2 up in there,
yeah.
too.
Thank you, Assassino, for that.
A lot of 4s up there. A lot of futures traders, Sharif.
Fabian. So 3, 4, and 5 we're not detecting. 1 and 2 was detecting, but 3, 4, and 5. So just no worries. Thank you, Fabian, for that. Fabian's always doing really, really interesting stuff, man. Shout out to Fabian. Guys, while Joey was talking about the algo, I took a bit of a scalp trade here on BIAF. Like, look at this. We got in right at the low end of the range. I still see the same range happening here. You guys probably see the same range too. BIAF has a buyer at 470, and there's that's quite obvious. Okay, now it did breach the high of the day into 504, but I'm willing to submit to you guys it was a bit of a liquidity grab because it dropped right below that, and the candle ended up closing red too. But nonetheless, this is a range being established. I picked it up at the lower end of the range, and I sold it towards the high end of the range. In fact, we got 496s on that, so very happy with that quick scalp trade. I wasn't risking much. I mean, because it was a clear buyer at 470, as you can see that. The lowest area here that we've got to is literally 470 on the dot. Nothing has breached 470 from 1150 candle on the 5 onwards. It just hasn't. 471 low, 470 low, 472, 470. 472, you guys get it. So it's been defending quite well. And I'm also holding ALLO, and we're well in the money on this one. 259 high, Joey. We're in at 48s. This one's cleared the $0.50 and then some. We've already wet the beak here on ALLO. So I'm gonna look to see if we can clear 60 over here. Looks like there's a bit of selling into 58s. Packing the patience on this one. Good move up, a bit, almost 25%, still at 24 and change here. ALLO looking real good. And then I also wanted to mention SER is kind of dropping a little bit. So it looks like it found a little resistance at around 305. It couldn't shake that 305 seller, coming back down into 99s at around $3. What I'd be looking for here is, first and foremost, does it hold up at around the 10 EMA VWAP, which are basically 1 penny apart, 1 or 2 pennies apart? So that's first and foremost. Does it come back into a key area, former resistance, and now find support? If it does, then can it mosey on back up, take out that 305 seller? If it comes back up, takes out 305, I'm getting along for a move, at least, I want to say, into 20, if not higher. Maybe 25, maybe 50 on SER, especially if it catches a bid. Now it's going to need volume, and that volume profile, as you can see on the bottom right of your chart, has been declining as of late, with the biggest volume bar right at 930 at the implied balance open. So 18 and change is what SER is up on the day, and there goes BIAF. It ripped everybody's face off. The shorts are running scared. They're on the ropes, and this is trouble for them. Wow, what a stair step up. Beautiful holding of structure on BIAF, using that former area of resistance as support. That 470 was money. Into 518 it goes, Joey, but we still don't have a closing print above $5, even with this candle rocketing up into the high of the day. To clear 5, I'm going to need to see a closing print on the 5-minute chart, and we still don't have that. But what a beautiful move here on BIAF. Shout out to Pat Christie. He's all about that life. Shout out to my man, my PD writer. Sorry about that. He's about that life as well. 520 high, Joey. That's a new high of the day. BIAF, 89%. Looking for more. Ripping faces off. The shorts are running scared, at least for now. As Luis said, though, as he very astutely pointed out, shout out to Luis Barbado in the chat, most of these small cap gappers are statistically likely to close red. So they do their thing. They do their thing 25. They do their thing intraday. But when all is said and done, Joey, they're coming back down, down, baby.
You know what we got to say to that, Sharif?
Oh, what do you got to say, Joey?
No, Bailey Buttons, what do you mean? I don't know. I think PineScript is equally as popular as Python, in my opinion. I don't know. Again, I'm just a vibe coder, my brother. I just take what's from up here and type it into what we got going on.
Leave him alone.
In Claude and thing. I'm by no means am I any form of a coder, but damn, can your boy come up with a damn good strategy, my boy? No, but
good about yourself. Dust that shoulder off.
Yeah, clean. Well, I won't be dusting off very soon. As soon as the mechanic calls me and says, "Yeah, hey man, you gotta owe me this much money." But no, in all seriousness, guys, this is
you need a mechanic friend. That's what you need.
I used to have one.
That's what you need, right?
I used to have one.
You need a good mechanic friend.
So I had really good rapport. So anyways, on my old, I used to have the 320i. That was my baby girl, right? So anyways, Selena.
Yeah.
Curb, oopsie, right? Yeah,
typical
curb. No, not bad damage or anything along those lines. Yeah, but it like the little fender, it bent it a little bit, right?
Okay.
So I send it to my guy.
Cosmetic, not structural.
Cosmetic, right? I send it to my guy. I come and I pick the car up and I say, what is this? Well, he said $300. Give me $300.
Fair.
I look at him and I say, what is this? You didn't fix anything. And he's like, you didn't really do anything. He's like, it's the light. It's the way the light's hitting.
I don't care if the light, bro.
And then after
I don't want to see it.
I'm like, Tony, what do I look like? I'm blind here? It's the light. Come on, you didn't really fix it.
Because he's your friend, he thought he could half-ass it?
Well, he's older guys. The guy I've been going to for a long time, right? So we call him my friend. If I needed anything, I go to him, everything. Anyway, so I say, Tony, what are you going to get the light me? It's not the light. You know what I mean, brother? He's like, all right, just take it. And then after that,
you didn't pay him?
I didn't pay him. And I never took my car back.
Yeah,
so,
well, that's a problem right there.
But you know what will pay for all of this stuff here, Sharif, is these algos, guys. So this is essentially the inverse of what this strategy above here, right? So what happens is if you have a stock that's in a consistent downtrend, you flick one off and you turn the other one on. And the metric on this so far, you can see how much this stock has been sliding as of late. 57% probability. That's huge on 7 trades, 4 for 7, and then a profit factor of 2.7. That's absolutely massive, okay? And the signals on this are A++. This is exactly, Gaurav, I hope you're listening. This is exactly what we're aiming for. And for me, it's just like, hey, I can't pick up everything with, even though we have alerts. It's just like, hey, let the automation take care of everything for you. Does it always work? Absolutely not. But when you're hitting 4 out of 7 trades and you go from February 9th to March 23rd, then it's just like, okay, that's fine. And if you have the correct basket of stocks per algorithm implemented and typed into your API or whatever it may be, that's all you really need. For me, I know people are different. Like Jose's like, man, we're looking for different metrics. He's spinning algos out. My style is like, all right, let's get some quality. They're not saying they're not quality. Let's get some ones that maybe don't trigger as much, but have a little bit higher of a profit factor. And that's what you got going on. And shout out to Jose. He taught me all of this stuff essentially. So 2.7, and we can go through a couple more names that have been in consistent downtrends. And sure enough, they will perform relatively well. I don't think it performs well, even though Hood, not bad, but only one trade, right? Only one trade, which is good. You're not going to complain about that, right? It's like, okay, you want it to pick up certified signals, and if it doesn't, then by all means, off to the races you go, kick rocks, as they would typically say.
Sorry, CJ, and it's not 2 cups of rolled oats. It's 4 cups of rolled oats. My bad. And I powderize the rolled oats. So I just throw them in the blender so that they're basically powder. I throw that into a big, like, stainless steel bowl. And then I throw 4 scoops of protein, throw in the cinnamon, for your own taste, to throw in a little salt as well. Once you have all the powdered ingredients, so those are the 4 powdered ingredients, in the stainless steel bowl, mix it up so that you get a homogenized kind of powder. And then once you've homogenized all the powder, you throw in, I put in a bit more than 1 cup of honey, just because I find honey doesn't stick as well as some others. And then 1 cup as well of peanut butter. And then once you have all those in there, take your watch off, man, and roll up your sleeves, because you're going to have to get in there with the hands. So shout out to my man there.
Mr. Leahy said, Mr. Leahy said I'm running out of mechanics to stiff. Bro, I'm not doing any of that. I'm the most straight shooter. If I owe you, I pay you at the end of the day, man. I'm a straight shooter in my opinion.
Yeah. This guy, for sure. You paid immediately. Here's the deal. I'm continuing to watch. What do you mean, Fluffy? Oh, the homogenized Fluffy. Okay. Fluffy hippo, man. Guys, BIAF is doing the dance here with 5, but it kind of looks similar to the dance that it was doing at 470. Remember how well of a support level that ended up being? It's stair-stepping up, guys. It's very much that stair-step up. That's a resistance level. We clear it, then we use it as support. It's not very much above 5, so it's keeping me a little bit out of the trade, but I don't mind getting back into this one. We've been in it a couple of times. Well, let's see, $5 holds. If it holds, I'll use 5 as my backstop. But for the moment, it's a 520 high. This current candle, the 1225 candle, has a high of 510, a low of 494. So we're still zigging and zagging below and above that 5. Prior bar, the 1220 candle has a low of 477, so it holds 70, but it has a high of 520. So we're still very much below the level, but this one could be above 520 in a heartbeat. It's done it many times. Now, I want to get ALLO, 259 high. It's coming back down in 54s, but I don't want to take it out quickly yet because, and I want to mention why, because this one has a tendency to pull back into the 10 EMA, find support, and mosey on back up. It's done it once, it's done it twice, and now it is doing it thrice. Shout out to my man. Oh, now there's really no way to know this is going to be a yet another 10 EMA hold. It could be a 50 penny hold. Now, if it comes back into 50 pennies, I'm going to add a bit more, quite frankly, with this double bottom as my out. This is an area low. Look how it held off the 10 EMA. The low of these candles is 47. So if it does mosey on back to 50, loses the 10 EMA, I'm going to add so long as 50 holds. So that's one way, one look there. The other thing that I want to mention is SER is coming back into that. I want to say that volume weighted average price / 10 EMA. Now, if it holds here, I'm going to be very much on the lookout for another move back above 305. Why am I not getting in here? Well, because this to me could be a lower high, right? And the way that we know it's no longer a lower high is if we come back into an area of support and then retest this general area high. To me, that general area high is 305 and nothing but 305. We take that out. Then we break the trend line, we break prior area high, and I get involved for a possible move into 20, 25, maybe even 50. So SCR is in focus, but it's going to have to set up in the right way. Otherwise, I don't get involved. Danny boy, I love this guy's comments. You want to read this? Because usually you're the one that...
Well, he's already got me chuckling.
All right.
Here we go. All right, guys. Danny boy. Help me understand something here, boys. It's perfectly okay for Trump to lie about peace talks in order to manipulate the oil prices. But when I announced that SCDI, Stolen Cheese Dispenser Incorporated, was building a free cheese mine on the moon, I'm a bad guy. I mean, space cheese is a tough sell, I think, there, brother. You know what it made me think about? That scene from Joe Dirt where he thinks he has the meteorite.
Yeah, it's poop. It's space poop. It's not even space poop. It's from like an airplane.
Yeah,
exactly. And he's like taking that thing everywhere. He tried to take it into the antique shop or like the pawn shop.
He's like eating fries off of it with ketchup.
I gotta watch that movie again, man.
It's a classic.
Dirte.
Yeah,
Shout out to Joe Dirte.
Yeah.
It's such a good movie.
Man.
It's got a cult following, man. It's kind of like it's like Napoleon Dynamite. You like that movie? You like that movie?
Yeah,
I've got the boo on me, Ichiro.
Yo,
yes.
That's when he thinks he has like that nuclear bomb. He's like, I'm gonna hit it,
stupid.
and then they call police.
He thought it was a new. It was like what? It was just like the actual space toilet, though. Like it was a container.
It was
right?
a container.
Oh my days.
And he's calling for the native guy. His name's Kickin' Wing. It's like, bro.
Stop, bro. Stop.
Yeah.
This dude's good. Yeah, all right, guys, we're having a good time. It feels every bit of Monday, man. Yeah, we are. Shout out to Vincent. Man, continuing to watch here, guys. Looks like BIAF is not going to do what it did with 470 with 5. So it's breaking down below 5 now. Now, I hate to use the word breaking down because this doesn't look like much of a breakdown here, but quite frankly, that 477, 475, maybe even 480, looking like a good support area. I mean, you have not, Joey, had a breach the 10 EMA at all since maybe 955, and that was a quick wick below the green line and a move right back up. So BIAF has been very, very trend respectful. Is that a thing? Into 520 it goes, but a little bit off the highs now. But I'm going to be keeping a close eye here on BIAF in the same way that I'm keeping an eye on SER and ALLO. I'll have nothing to do with MGRX. It's looking like it's looking short, okay? I'm not taking it short, but you got the first kind of inclination that the short might be on. You had an attempt at VWAP, and what you had done in the past is you had breached VWAP, right? You've been kind of doing that oscillating look. Now, you had the latest attempt, and it rejected exactly off the volume weighted average price. So this could be a sign that the shorts are now looking at VWAP as that key area of resistance off which to build a position. I think your suspicions will be confirmed if it breaches this area low, the double bottom that we put in at 1205 and 1210, the low of which is 32.25. I'm talking pennies, 32.25 pennies right there. It loses that. It probably heads all the way back down into that pre-market consolidation area, 27 to 25 pennies. That's MGRX. What else? PLTE. I've got nothing good to say about this one. This one didn't really kind of give us what we were looking for. We were looking for that multiple halter to the upside, seeing as last week had a number of them, starting, of course, with Swarmer, that IPO that went up, I think, over 1,000%. Within 2 days, but PTLE doing very much not that. And yeah, that's really all I've got to mention that's good. SATL. Now, this was a breakout, and then it wasn't. This is looking more like a range nowadays, with, I say, the majority of the prints defending that 425, but you do have breaches of that 4.25. So you need to be alive to that. Moreover, you're getting a bunch of lower highs here with this area being the high of the day, 443. You attempt another 4 1/3 break. It fails. So something to be on the lookout for there. Otherwise, I don't really have a lot. Now, ALLO looks like it, for the moment, is defending again the 10 EMA on the 5. If this goes back up into 6s and 7s, I'm probably going to add into this one for a move into the 2/3, maybe even 3/4. This is such a slow mover, though. So you need to be ready for kind of that stair step up. Maybe you get a penny every 2 or 3 minutes. Maybe you don't. So ALLO, don't expect this to act like BIAF, at least not for the moment. Maybe a bigger buyer comes in and starts juking this one left and right, but for the moment, it's not a fast mover. I'm going to continue to keep an eye out on my scanner here for any new ones that are making a move, but it really does look like BIAF is the best of the bunch. Just looking through some more here to see if there's any new ones moving in. GEMX is trying to make a move. If Bovin was here, he'd be all over this. And I don't mean to dunk on Bevin, but he loves these ones that are coming off area lows and making a move into VWAP. And I think that this is actually a sound strategy by Bovin. He's been doing this a lot more lately from what I've been observing. GMEX is the ticker, and kind of what I mean by that is something that was very strong earlier on, gives up the entire ghost, but then finds a key area of support. In this case, it's the dollar. Look how well this one defended the dollar. Then it gets a nice breakout candle. Typically what we do is we try to retest previous area highs. If we really catch a bid, then we're making our way back to VWAP. So if you were to get into 109, you'd risk below $1, like 99s or 98s, with a possible move back into a $1.23, $1.25, give or take. So it's a good risk to reward setup, but it does breach my rules of getting into a long on a small cap gapper that's trading below VWAP. Just because I don't do it doesn't mean it's not a sound strategy. As I mentioned, I feel Bovin's been all over this kind of lately. We're going to pause for a second. Joey and I, we're sending it to Adara at the big desk.
Be aware here, oil pulling back a little bit. Al Hadath News reporting that, according to an Israeli official, the U.S. has set April 9th as their deadline for ending this conflict with Iran. We know they've said like 4 to 6 weeks. April 9th would be like right in between that 5 to 6 week period because this conflict did start on February 28th. So again, According to an Israeli official, as reported by Al Hadath, Washington, U.S. side of things, setting that April 9th as the date to end the conflict with Iran. I also want to let you guys know, I am watching, I guess, the pre-show or lack thereof for this Memphis Safe Task Force Roundtable President Trump will be attending. Right now, everyone's taking their seats. The participants include Kash Patel, of course, Director of the FBI, and Pam Bondi, U.S. Attorney General. When I see President Trump and other participants, I'll let you know he's not set to speak at this until 1 p.m. Eastern, so likely it's still going to be a little bit while until this event begins. But again, we are seeing senior Trump officials starting to appear at this roundtable right now. Just a very odd playlist so far for this. Back to you.
All right, guys. Yeah, let's get right back into things. I mean, the market was selling, giving back the majority of the move. Not much of a continuation off of the pop that we've seen in the pre-market. And USO, we'll pull that up here momentarily. Joe Schmo, I'm with you on that one. Joe Schmo. But yeah, here it is, a nice pop off of the lows there on USO, climbs up to about $114.56, and then now coming back in towards the volume-weighted average price, and you can see that inverse correlation starting to uptick again with the overall market and oil, right? So here it is, flush to the downside, oil to the upside, all right? So I don't know if there's going to be any form of continuation here. Obviously, time will tell. But what I can say is that maybe we'll find somewhat of a trade that we had there on AMDL once again on Friday here today. All right, I had even more shares than what I had on Friday, but we can pull that up and see essentially what I'm going to get at is, hey, if this is just a consolidation, then I think there's going to be an opportunity to add, and then maybe we get an additional leg lower. Okay, so that's kind of be my narrative, but we have to be really patient just in case there's a pullback deeper towards the volume-weighted average price. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we are south of opening price here, and if we head towards these pre-market lows, that's going to be a substantial move lower here in AMD. I don't know if we're going to get that far, but even if we crack through this intraday low, then there's a good chance, I think the percentage of that happening slightly increases. So let's head over and see what we had going on from Friday, because it's similar price action, right? So we can pull it. That's why it's key to document what we have going on and see essentially like what we do right and what we do wrong. And here it is. So kind of the same narrative here, guys, on Friday's trades. Exact same underlying, nothing different, right? Bigger? Okay, so it's okay, we have that initial move lower, right? So it's kind of the leg that we're sitting in, boom, 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 we take some off, we wait for a specific risk to reward, but then we have that pull back in towards the volume weighted average price, and then that's when we decide to add. We get that curl over, we get that, not quite a turtle shell type move, but a solid move that says, hey, we're not gonna be climbing any higher. That gives you the opportunity to reload your shares and take that second leg lower. So that's what happened on Friday. Let's see if we can get that same thesis to work out here today on AMDL. Adara.
President Trump is 20 minutes early at this Memphis Safe Roundtable, Memphis Safe Task Force Roundtable. Not necessarily likely to be market moving, but of course he can mention something related to the markets. Just be aware here, President Trump is now sitting down at this roundtable. It is starting early. I will keep you guys posted with any and all market-related updates. Keep an eye on Apple as well. Just seeing a report, company said to add search ads to its Maps app in a push towards services. Once I see a little bit more here from this headline, I'll let you know. There was a slight push higher here for Apple. I'm also seeing, apparently this could be a bad look for Yelp, YELP. This one is pushing lower. So again, Yelp and Apple both on watch, as Apple's reportedly adding search ads to its Maps app. Back to you.
Thank you very much for that, Adara. Trip Q. I mean, hey, do you steal that from me? I think you did on the trips. But anyways, no, aside from that, you got to take into consideration, we've been in this trade from, you can see from 93. So I have no issues with adding a little bit more, maybe even risking some of my realized gains just to see if the thesis or if the price action displays the potential setup of us taking that second leg lower. We can still climb higher, you're not wrong, into the volume weighted average price, but I wouldn't be surprised if we start to get a little bit of a curl over as well too, which even if we fail to establish a new low of the day and form a higher low, that's fine. You can still base a trade off of it, but if the momentum really starts to pick up through VWAP, then there's no addition. I'm positioned relatively well here on the short, and I need to see something that says, hey, we are ready to slowly curl over and then potentially test that low, or maybe even establish a new one. So you can make money both ways on that one. You're not wrong. You can get a grind back up to the volume weighted average price in AMD.
All right, guys. BIAF is failing. It lost 470 where it had a lot of buyers. Current bar low, 462, but it is recovering currently above 70. So let's see if that's just a quick wick and a reclaim of that 470 technical support area that we basically had since 1150, since reclaiming or claiming, I should say, that area. We hadn't been above that in the pre-market, but BIAF off that 520 high, it fails 5 for the moment. It's failed 470 on a strict basis, but it is recovering now. Now, let's just be honest about it. If we continue to sell off here, and it does feel like we may, then where are we going? Well, 450 is right around the corner, right into that, about 20 pennies below where we're trading at the moment. And then you've got a bit of a buy area the way that I see it. And we talked about this earlier when we thought this one was going to lose 470. Said that 440 to 450 area. Now you've got double the support I see, and this is failing quickly. It's losing 470. It's about to lose 460. The way I see it, you've got the breakout level at 440 because all the closing prints reject 440. The wicks do go up to 450. Now, though, you've got the volume weighted average price also at 440. So that's also jiving with the closing print breakout area. Now, you did dip in right now into 456, being bought up into the low 60s. Let's see if this one finds some support, though. You don't need to be first here. I know there's always like this desire to want to get the best price. I get it, man. I'm a trader too. I know, you always want the best in, the best out. I get all that. But I also like confirmation because it helps me rest easier with my trades. And the only way to get confirmation is to actually wait for the price to close. That way, you know for a fact that the buyers are stepping in and or whatever situation you're involved in. So BIAF, certainly in focus for me. We've executed on it a couple of times. I have no problems getting in a third time, but it's got to be that right setup. Separately, we're continuing to hold ALLO. It did defend the 10 EMA, but it's still south of that 259, which is the high of the day, showing 57s now. Let's see if we can get above 60. We're going to have to go back to Adara.
Just be aware here, President Trump just said he's going to be providing an update on Operation Epic Fury before he gets to this Memphis Safe Task Force event. Once he gives us any kind of information, I'll let you know, but he just said he's going to be talking Operation Epic Fury, which of course is their Iran operation, so keep an eye here in USO. He is repeating his claim from earlier today that he, or the US and Iran have had preliminary talks over the past few days. So President Trump saying once again, despite, I guess, conflicting views from Iran, saying that the U.S. and Iran have had preliminary talks over the next few days or last few days. Stay tuned for me to provide more updates.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
This guy, bro. This guy. All right, yeah. President Trump speaking. Get ready. So we're going to keep you guys apprised of that. I'm continuing to watch. President Trump will, very likely not affect many of the things that I'm trading today. We're not trading any oil names like BATL or TPET. It doesn't seem like these ones are moving to the beat of the market's drum at all. They seem to be moving independently, at least for now. But cool brioche, you mentioned SATL, and here we are again back and close to that top end of the range at around 440, 443. That is the high. So SATL making a move. So is ALLO. It's a penny now off the high of the day. So I'm watching that closely. I don't really have a whole lot, though. I do apologize, guys. The pickings are slim today in the world of small cap gappers. I think that I've got the best two on at the moment, ALLO and BIAF. I'm completely agnostic at the moment to how SATL is going to turn out. But let me tell you, man, if this dips back into the $0.25 again, I'd be remiss if I didn't get in, a little shares at the $0.25, maybe give it to $0.125, maybe not even, maybe give it to prior area low, which is about 22.5 pennies. But there it goes, cool brioche, back into 41s. It's like 2 pennies off the high of the day now. This one could see 50 pennies quick as you like. So be on the lookout here for SATL. And let's not forget, remember my theory about SER? If this makes That 305 high comes into VWAP and starts curling, which it looks like it may be doing. Let's not get too excited. Let's see if we can get back above 3. It gets into that VWAP, curls back up, takes out 305, which is the prior area high. Your boy's getting long, talking about SCR of 17 3/4, but not setting up quite the way that I wanted to yet. Shout out to my man Sergio. Sharif, did you talk about Tesla news with chips and potential merger? We will be getting to that, sir, in about, I'd say, less than 15 minutes, because it is the first news item today on my morning note. And of course, the morning note is what we use for the afternoon news session. SCR is moving here, guys. Here we go. So it took out 3. It's on the way to 305. SCR might be the good one now. Let's pack the patience, because if this gets a VWAP defend after trying to reclaim $3 and then reclaims it after that, this is a good bullish setup with a possible move into the $1/5 of a dollar, if not the $1/4 of a dollar there, up 18.9%. SCR is showing everything for the moment, while BIAF, Joey, looks like it is headed maybe down to 440. I saw somebody in the chat moments ago saying BIAF, pardon me, is going to be below $4 soon. You might be right, brother, because these ones have a statistical likelihood to close red. I wouldn't choose the strongest one and be gung-ho to go short. I'd wait for it to set up, but your point very well taken. Keep your eye on that, and SCR now is 1 penny off that 305 high. So we got to set up here a possible trade. There is my SCR screen. Now I want to set up my risk to reward, so let's just do this live. So let's say, for example, I want to get into SCR. We type in the ticker SCR. It adjusts the price. Look at that, 303, 303. Say I want to risk $100 on this trade, right? And I want to stop out below area low. Give me a sec. 290, sorry, Joey, give me a sec. 292 low. So then it tells me, Sharif, you need, based on the current price, 833 shares, your 1R, based on the current price, again, 315, 2R, 328, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it continuously updates given the price. So that really does help me, especially because, like, look, you hit the tilde key and I can hit my shares there. I want 877 shares. There we go. So next time I punch using my hotkeys, it's going to punch for 877 shares. So this is kind of what I wanted. I wanted the speed and to be able to see what my risk to reward is live based on the current price. It's really helping me a lot. I'm very pleased with it, Joey.
Yes, Charlie. Yes, Charlie. Guys, do us a solid here. Just hit the like. I mean, we're sitting at 406. We're not asking for much. It's just the click of the button. Thank you guys all for participating. But once again, just hit that like, hit that subscribe button. You get a couple upticks. It ain't nothing but the click of a button. All right, guys. Moving forward, I mean, we have the exact same thing going on here. Who was it? Trip Qs. I mean, see, you were starting to get that pullback that we were talking about not too long ago. And I mean, we see the inverse correlation between the NASDAQ and the and USO really start to kind of come together and converge again. When we seen yesterday, or on Friday, sorry, is that we started to see that kind of disparity within that. So the news, and it's extremely headline sensitive, rightfully so, and I think it's going to be, but at some point it's going to really cool off, and then you're not going to really see anything. It's like silver, right? Silver was just steady and a steady uptrend, but then eventually it cooled off, and it's going to be the same narrative here in USO. So what essentially I'm thinking, if I'm going to get an ad on AMD, is that we want to see a nice curl over. That's a nice inverted hammer candle print right here, but it's not my green light to add into the position. I want to see a couple more 5-minute candles print, and then we consolidate and then slowly start to establish some lower highs. I think that's really important to note. We are starting to come back in, which is a positive sign, but as long as we don't continuously crack these highs, I think we're gonna be okay for an ad. Adara.
Keep an eye here on OXY. Occidental CEO saying they see peak U.S. oil supply in range of 2027 to 2031. At that point, that'll be oil supply of roughly 15 million barrels daily. That's, again, according to the CEO of Occidental. I also want to mention here comments coming from President Trump. President Trump has been talking about Iran so far during this Memphis Safe Task Force event, so keep an eye on oil and the market as a whole. Trump saying that Iran has one more chance to end threats to America and that the world will become much safer very soon. So be aware, he is still speaking about Iran at this event. Now, furthermore, he actually also touted once again these stock market gains in the S&P 500 and the Dow, saying that no one thought the Dow would make it to 50,000, but the Dow did did make it to 50,000 earlier this year under President Trump's second presidential term. Back to you.
Very much for that, Adara. So yeah, there it goes. It cracks the low, the open of that previous inverted candle, and then now we're starting to head a little bit lower. A retest failed to establish a new high. That's going to be my green light to add some more shares. I'm sitting on absolutely nothing, about 5%, not even at this point, of what we had of the bulk of this position right here. We hit a 7-to-1 roughly on this one, just risking a fraction of what we put on this one. These were more or less feelers, and then we get the size rocking and rolling. Because I wanted, if the trade was going to work, I wanted to put on enough shares in order for me to be able to ride this whole trend. We did take out whatever we were remaining to the point where we had half for this massive leg down. And what we're going to do is just double it up or maybe even triple, get back to like a 1R risk, use our unrealized gains, and then sure enough, boom, as soon as it gives us the green light, that's exactly what we're going to do. And what the positive thing about this is that I can just use my unrealized gains, so I don't even essentially have to take a loss on the trade, but I'm willing to do so just in case we do get that curl over and establish a new low of the day in AMD.
There goes BIAF taking out the prior area high. It is now up 95%. And this one could see 6 soon. We got to clear 550 first, but a clean hold here of that prior area low. Looks like it found some support at 60. Not an area that I earmarked, to be fair. I was looking for 70 because that's where the prior buyer was, but then that lost it in a hurry here. And then right back up into the area high. So 538 high for BIAF, up 94%. Be careful trying to short this when it's this strong, guys. Wait for the setup to come in. I mean, like likely below VWAP, currently showing about 440. Don't stand in front of this one because it looks like it may have some more in the tank here, possibly into 6, who knows where. So that is my look on BIAF. Haven't been involved in this one since, I want to say, about a little after noon. We got out there about 12:15. It kind of dilly-dallied, didn't really give me a setup that I liked, so we didn't get back involved, but that was an explosive break. I didn't anticipate this. We were putting in lower highs, right? But then you get the break of trend. So BIAF in focus here. ALLO coming right back into highs. Looking at 58s, high of the days, 59. We're holding 48s. We're packing the patience. And I'm also keeping a close eye, not on SATL, but on SER. SER looks very, very, ready to go. I want to say above that 305 area. The issue with the SER here, number one, it trades on the MX exchange. So right away, it's under suspicion. It's on, it's right away. You're guilty until proven innocent on the MX. I'm kidding, but I'm not. That's number one. Number two, because it's had resistance at this level prior, and really most of the closing prints reject 4 with the wicks into 5, if we do breach that 304, 305 area with this higher low, it could be an explosive breach, right? Where you get like a 5-6 penny move where there's really where there's no liquidity. So be careful here on SER for a number of reasons. One, if you're looking for a breakout trade, you need to take into account that there may be illiquidity on the breakout. So what I mean by that is, say you're trying to get in 306. I'm just giving you any number, right? And you put a 306 limit buy. Well, there may not be enough shares at 306 for you to get filled. So that's one. Two, so then what do? Do you use a market order? I personally don't like using market orders. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I like to use limits. So what I'll do is I'll just give my limit a bit more room. So I'll say to the computer, try to buy at 306, but if there's nothing to buy, pay up to 308. So you give it a 2 penny spread between the trigger and the ultimate limit. Most platforms do allow you to do something like that. I know certainly IB does, and P8 here at work certainly does as well. So that's what I'm looking for there. Other than that, I'm steering clear at the moment. BIAF coming right back down into 518. Look, this one could be a buy again off 5, but we'll have to wait and see whether or not the longs can kind of continue the party here into 5.5. So 538 high, coming back down now into 5 low double digits, possibly single digits on BIAF. And SER, again, rejects 304. Be on the lookout, though, for a higher low. So if we do fail 3, Do we hold up above 294? Like I'm talking about 296, 297. Those could be money fills. And also, it gives you a good risk to reward setup, right? So you come back into 96, 97, and look where your stop goes. It goes below prior area low. That gives you about to 292.5, 293. So it's a good R&R, especially if you're biased like I am, that this one takes out 305 and maybe Mosey's back on to 320, even better, 325. I'd be game. So that's something to look out for there. Cool Brio says ETSA is going, EDSA. ETSA is a former convict, meaning that we've seen this one move in the past. Let's have a quick look at ETSA. Light volume, Cool Brioche. Not my fave, not gonna lie. Let's see what we got here on the volume bars. We got 693,000 shares, brother, on a 7 2/3 name at around 1 o'clock. So it's not exactly appetizing with the volume profile that it has, but hey, who can argue off that 675 move, now 765, but you're gonna have likely a wide spread. Moreover, when you hover over these candles, they're a light bunch. 1,150 shares traded on this one 5-minute candle. How about 2,900 here, 3,400 here? Those wouldn't even be one of RC's, small entries, right? So you're likely going to have some issues there with the spread, but who can argue with that trend? So good luck there, guys. Continuing to watch here as more comments come in from President Trump, of course, and then we'll update you guys on that. But continue to watch BIAF as it recovers right back above 5.25 again. So may give you an opportunity here, 538 high. Keep your eye out on that one.
Keep your eye out on the prize. All right, guys, let's head over to our scanner and see what we got going on from a volume standpoint on today's session. I mean, as for NVDA, 113 million shares. That's nothing out of the usual for this. We'll go over the options chain on some of the top volume names as well, too. As for TSLA, getting that pullback, you do bounce off of VWAP, and then sure enough, we're starting to slowly curl over once again. This is setting up pretty good for us, and I think it's going to, as obviously as it may seem, it's going to go one way or the other. So we failed to establish a new pivot high, therefore we construct a new lower high, right? And with that being said, you wait for price action to slowly start to curl over, and that's going to be the add opportunity. These turtle shell plays take a little bit more time to kind of construct themselves and formulate, so you want to be extremely cautious on what we got.
I want to shout out our TikTok viewers as well. Joey, sorry to interrupt you because we got KSOO, K-Sue. He wants to know your thoughts about the triple Qs. How do I market? Yeah, how are you feeling about them right now?
Right now, yeah. I mean, I think it's gonna be heavily correlated with what we got going on in some of the larger names, right? So as I typically say, if you're trading the Qs or the T-triple Qs, whatever it may be, you want to keep your eyes on the larger participants, and that's typically gonna be your Mag 7 names, right? So if they're not all moving in tandem, then it's a little bit more difficult. So you go over to NVDA, it looks like it wants to have somewhat of a breakdown, a key support level. You have Apple, you have the Microsoft that look like they want to sell. That's good. If you're looking to build somewhat of a thesis, yeah, you can experience some upticks, but if they're all moving in correlation, then by all means, go with the flow. So when you're trading the NASDAQ, you typically want to follow these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Bang.
Top names, right? So we can go through them right now. What we got going on, Broadcom, looks like it wants to sell. You have that stair step up, but you're starting to consolidate, and if you can't break through this previous resistance zone, and you can see we have multiple touches right at the volume weighted average price as well too, so there's somewhat of a supply zone there, you might get an additional leg lower. Same thing with Meta. The price action moving to the top side, relatively weak, all right? So if sellers step in, I don't think they would have any issue with pushing price a little bit lower. There's not going to be that much of a battle. But when you're trading the NASDAQ, I say it time and time again, you have to look at what the larger participants are doing. And if you're thinking of going short, and you have Google, Apple, and say Microsoft absolutely ripping, you have the other names not really doing too much, well, it's most likely going to climb a little bit higher, making your short thesis a little bit more difficult. So when trading the trips, I'll say it one more time, keep your eye. And that's why it's actually keep your eyes on these big boys. And in my opinion, that's why at times it's really difficult for me to trade. Why? Because there's so many variables that you have to take into consideration. And at times you can fall into analysis paralysis. Half of them are moving higher, the other half are moving lower. And you're like, what do I do? And if you fall into that realm, I think it's just really good for you to avoid that underlying and that vehicle at all costs. And then maybe find an individual ticker. All right, Adara.
Nice little low-stake story. We've heard a lot of Iran-related headlines, but I want to talk here about Apple. AAPL announcing the official date of their WWDC 2026 event. That'll be from June 8th to 12th. So as usual, like the second week of June, there'll be an in-person event on June 8th. That's going to be very likely the keynote at Apple Park. Everything else is going to be online. Apparently, it'll be spotlighting AI advancements, new software, and developer tools across Apple platforms. There will be over 100 video sessions. And here is the official logo of WWDC 2026. Back to you.
That keynote there, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think AI is out of the vocabulary right now for Apple.
Well, they said
so
AI. They said,
or what is spotlight AI advancements,
they're back.
new software.
They're back on it now. They're back on it. All right.
Do you think they have a choice? They have no choice. They have to get this out. Now, whether I think they get it out and they kind of do the Google model where we have to accept that it's not going to be picture perfect and, you know, it's going to glitch here and there. I use Google Docs every day.
Yeah.
And every day it glitches on me. But it's still a usable product, and that's what Google does.
I think what has to be taken into consideration is how new the technology still is. It's still in its infancy.
Every day, dude, whether I'm using Gemini, whether I'm using Grok, I pay for Grok, whether I'm using Chat, we get Gemini and Chat from the premium from work for free. All of them, without exception, will hallucinate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I started doing now is I'll take the output from one LLM and I'll throw it into two others to fact check it. Because it's consistently inaccurate, right?
So we know that Gemini is going to be integrated into Siri, right?
Yes, sir.
We know that it's still a little bit wishy-washy at times.
Yeah.
Do you think they release it, or do you think they're still aiming for that perfection?
Well, I can only say what they've done so far. So, you know, Chat's been integrated with Siri.
Yeah.
So every time you ask a query of Siri and it goes to Chat, it will always end off with, that was from ChatGPT. Check important information for errors. So it always kind of puts in that caveat that, you know, that terms of service right at the end there. But
I mean, one thing that I really love about the stock is that you have the hyperscaler spending all this money, hundreds of billions of dollars. We're going to talk about it relatively soon. I'm assuming what we got going on with Tesla, looking to spend a little bit more cash here on the Terafactory.
Yeah.
But Google,
20 billion.
Yeah, 20 billion.
20 billion.
It's not that much.
Other
100 billion.
150, 180. That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And we're also starting to see Apple rake in money from this. So it's like 900 million. I mean, that's chump change for them at the end of the day. But it's almost $1 billion.
Exactly.
Right there. Considering what do they collect? The couple percentage points on the apps from
and they're not even charging you anything yet for any of these AI features. I'm assuming, and it's an assumption.
You think they're going to have a tiered?
Probably. They throw that in with the cloud features. So you know, you get your storage. You have, I don't know how many gigs that you have. He has how many gigs, and you're paying this amount. I'm paying that amount. So it stands to reason that they probably monetize it in some way.
Well, I mean, it'd be silly for them not to.
Well, we'll see, Joey. I mean, it's kind of hard to know what Apple's going to do at any one point. I just want to see this foldable that's coming out. So much is being made about this foldable and the shape that it's going to take. It's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be like the price of a MacBook. People are saying $2,500
for the foldable. It better be dang good.
Yeah, well, we'll see. All right, let's start the news. It is 1:05, guys. I'm continuing to hold here my position on ALLO, and I'm very much alive to the fact that BIAF is still holding 5. It's got a bunch of bottoming tails now that defend 5. It's by no means cleared that 538 high, but this is quite a bullish setup. So BIAF, for those who are small cap gapper inclined and want to continue to trade into the afternoon while we do the news, you need to keep your eye here on BIAF. I would say it's no longer tradable as a long if it loses that bottoming tail candle that it put in at 1240, the low of which is 456. So let's just say if it loses the volume weighted average price right now, which is probably my move anyway at around 450, I don't think it's tradable. If it holds VWAP, I think you still got a shot here, but BIAF, right back down into 5 too. So we'll keep an eye on this one, and if we finish the news early, we may get involved with this one again. Let me pull in this Which screen do I want to keep it on, Assassino, so that I can keep my eye? There we go. We're going to keep my eye on these here markets, but we're going to be able to do the news. Let's talk a little Tesla. Perfect segue, Joey, because we were just talking about this. Your friends at Tesla want you to know, it's your friend Elon, that they're unveiling plans for their TerraFab, which is going to be a semiconductor manufacturing initiative. It's going to be between Tesla, XAI, and SpaceX. Now, I know that XAI and SpaceX now kind of one company, but it's a joint initiative between all of Musk's companies. The goal is to build AI-focused chips at massive scale. That positions Tesla deeper into that AI infrastructure stack, and it marks a shift towards vertical integration beyond just vehicles. They are very much vertically integrated when it comes to vehicles, and you feel they want to kind of continue with that moat in whatever endeavor they pursue. Initial phases, I should say, is expected to cost about tens of billions, with Tesla planning around $20 billion in equipment spending for all of 2026. When you compare that to how much they spent on equipment in 25, $9 billion, so more than double, but still markedly below what some of their Mag 7 peers are spending. Chips will require what is being called terawatt level electricity, but as Mitch so astutely pointed out last week, there is this kind of new phrase that everybody's using: bring your own power, right? Not bring your own booze. It's Monday. Bring your own power. And that is kind of just referring to the fact that all these hyperscalers are now kind of making sure that the data centers they're building out are powered by electricity that they're spending on, so they don't have to raise the money on local consumers, because that's been kind of a lot of the pushback has been because of that. And a lot of cancellations, by the way, of data centers, because people don't want electricity costs to go up. So keep your eye on that bring your own power initiative. Musk suggested production levels could rival millions of NVIDIA Blackwell class chips annually. We'll have to wait and see. He's talking about Taiwan semi-level targets here, which is quite ambitious. Initial, though, semiconductor production targeted for late 27, so a year and a half change maybe. With volume ramp up, though, he's saying into 28. The timeline is quite aggressive if you look at the industry norms, where fabs typically take about 3+ years to reach scale production. So Elon, always the ever optimist. We'll have to see if he's, out to lunch on this one, or what he can get it done into 28. This remains a long duration catalyst, though, not an immediate earnings driver. And Musk, Joey, expects about 80% of the chip output that he's going to build out at these TerraFabs to be used internally for AI and robotics. The other 20%, he could mark up and make some money on. That's apparently what's being talked about here.
Yeah. I heard a lot of it's going to end up in space as well, too, is what I was reading. I mean, characteristically aggressive from Elon with the timeline. I mean, I see that. Like, I don't know. But do you see what this power is supposed to be amount to? The TerraFab? Bro, TerraFab, so that's like 1 billion of the NVDA chips throughout the year. I don't know, is that a little bit too aggressive?
Can I say something?
Yeah, we know he's a visionary.
Consistently pointing out that the Chinese are adding terawatts of energy.
Yeah, they are.
And North America is adding gigawatts of energy. So quite frankly, I think he's trying to get to the fact that he wants to use solar, because that's how a lot of they're adding it.
Yeah,
well, not just even in space. Think about the Nevada desert, man. Think about all the desert that they've got available in the States. I drove.
And even you go to build something in Austin, right? Like, or in Texas somewhere, right?
Yeah.
You get a lot of.
There was I drove from Orange County to LA, to Vegas. This was back in summer of 21, and there's a monster solar farm in the middle of that drive, right? And
how crazy is it?
It's crazy. But the thing is, they're all mirrors. They're not actually solar panels, and they're all pointing at one kind of tower. All the mirrors are directing all the sun's energy into that one tower, and I guess that's kind of using it that way. So they're not all created equal. They're not all solar panels. Some of these solar farms are a little different.
So one thing that I think we have to look at it with this name is that he's adding another $20 billion in CapEx. The name's trading around 190 times earnings right now. So that's really, really expensive. So when this is priced into next earnings report, how how is the street going to look at this from a technical standpoint and a fundamental standpoint, because it's going to take him a while. And if he keeps pushing these timelines, I think Elon, he's not going to learn his lesson. He's going to have that optimistic timeline, but if it keeps getting pushed back and more, and the chances are it's going to cost more money the further it gets pushed back as well,
get
too.
more expensive.
So down the line, it's like, hey, this guy's spending a lot of money, but he's not meeting some of those deadlines. How's the street going to perceive that?
That's a great point. Adara?
Dropbox falling this afternoon as we get OpenAI announcing they're going to be having their own file storage component in ChatGPT. Now, as I've mentioned here, usually get Google announcements around 11 a.m. and OpenAI announcements around 1 p.m. This time, it's hitting DBX, Dropbox, again, as OpenAI announces file storage feature here for ChatGPT. Back to you.
What was I responding to there? Somebody had a great comment. Molyar, Sharif, it doesn't produce anywhere near what they expected, though. It's been a huge loss for Vegas and Nevada. So I was asking him, like, is it taxpayer funded? Because that would obviously not be good. I'm referring to that solar farm that I was speaking about on the drive from LA to Vegas. So that's kind of what I meant there. It was, yeah, shut up, yeah. It's always the taxpayer that's on the hook. Guys, SATL took out highs, okay? Be on the lookout here. It's taking out 450. It's breaking trend SSino. I think we had 440 flat top. That's done. SATL is him right now, looking really good. And this is a day 2 play. Like, look what it did on Friday. Kind of gave a little bit of a back. It was basically sell, 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 sell all afternoon. But today it's catching a bit of a bid. And there it goes again into 454. It's at the day's high. SATL is going, and so are we, to the next story. Meta is building internal AI stack as workforce cuts loom. Apparently, they're trying to give Zuck an AI assistant to help him do his job. Mark Zuckerberg is reportedly developing a personal AI assistant to streamline executive decision-making and bypass internal layers. A second tool as well dubbed, I should say, Second Brain, is gaining traction internally, allowing employees to index and query company data and documents. The push, of course, reflects Meta's strategy to embed AI deeply into internal workflows. I think that's a lot of companies' goals so that they can save money. They're also doubling down, though, on AI through acquisitions. We're talking about Maltbook, which is their AI agentic platform, Manus as well, that general purpose AI agent that the Chinese regulator is up in arms about. Internal adoption of these AI tools is already influencing performance reviews, workflows, and development cycles, and Zuckerberg's hands-on sort of involvement in these AI tool development definitely signals Meta is a top-down push to accelerate kind of innovation company. Reports suggest Meta sadly may cut about 5% of its workforce to offset some of the rising AI investment costs. We reported that to you guys last week. Meta on the day up 1 2/3, but it lost 600, I think, at least on Friday or in the moment. So this one, I think, has certainly seen better days. Definitely been dilly-dallying in the low to mid 600s lately, Joey.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the capex from wide selling standpoint. But this doesn't surprise me from Zucker. I actually watched an interesting documentary on Facebook, or Meta, I should say, yesterday. But this doesn't surprise me, right? You've seen he's already starting to cut different segments. He's cutting Reality Labs. He's to fund this movement. But the one thing that I find funny is he's trying to bypass a lot of the personnel, but who's helping him build this thing? Is he eventually going to kick them to the curb if he ever gets this agentic feature? But yeah, you talk about the 2 acquisitions there, Sharif, as well. I just find it interesting. This guy's going to continue spending his money. Let's just hope that he can get it right. To be honest with you, he's going to cut jobs to fund it, and if he doesn't get it right and have to continuously do the exact same thing and spend more and more money, the street's not going to like it, because what are they at, $130 billion or something, 135 this year on capex, so makes it a little bit more difficult for the street. And I think that's what I was referring. I was kind of using the comparison of Meta with Tesla, even though it's not even relatively the same, about like 20% of what Tesla's going to spend on this TerraFab, but the street, regardless of what you have in earnings, if they say, hey, these high amounts of capital expenditure, they're not going to like it.
That's a great point, Joe. Guys, I want to bring your attention to SER. Here it comes again. Now, the volume is not really supporting what could be a really good breakout trade above 305. So it failed 305 again. It tried to work above it after putting in a higher low. It's got yet another higher low, and it's trying to make its move into 305. So keep your eye on SER. Could be a squeeze in the fifth to $0.25. It's not up big. It's only up 18.5%, but one to keep your eye out on anyway. Shout out to Uncompromised One. Thank you for the $2 super chat. It's called Ivanpah Solar Farm closing in 2026. You're kidding. What a disaster. Let's find out. Okay, if this is the one that I'm thinking about over here, we'll do a quick Google search. Yeah, this is exactly it. That's so sad. It's closing. Look, Joey, this is how it looks. So it's kind of like this. Let me just load up this bad boy. Open image in new tab. There we go. And see how like they're just all mirrors and they all point at that one tower and that heats it the hell up. And I'm assuming there's some sort of boiler or something that takes advantage of all that power. So apparently this thing is closing and it's been a disaster.
Really?
So
I get a couple of those panels.
But you can see this thing miles away because this thing is bright as hell. You can see it from so far away.
You don't want to look at it, look directly into it.
No, you don't want to do that, right? It's just like, you know. Thank you very much for that. Sharif, if you're a bird, you get cooked going through the solar farm. Yeah, that's the problem. MF Danger saying the same thing. They kill birds like crazy. Again, Bastone saying, yeah, birds get cooked. Yeah, that's what sucks, man, about some of these renewable energy projects, whether you're talking about solar or wind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, obviously damaging to nature, which obviously we don't like. But didn't we have an issue with that with the 5G towers as well too here?
Did we?
Birds were like...
I understood that because we have a lot of glass buildings, high glass buildings in Toronto, the birds run right into it. That's the problem. I remember that specifically. But yeah, that is obviously a big problem.
Let me ask you, kind of off topic, but do you remember a long time ago, say 20 years plus, remember when you would drive down the highway and your windshield would just be littered with bugs?
Yeah.
And it's not the case anymore.
You haven't been to cottage country in a while.
But it's different. But I'm saying that was like it in the city. You could cottage country, but in the city you would drive down.
No, I find the city doesn't have as many mosquitoes as it used to when it was
zero.
When I was younger.
I can go a whole year without a mosquito bite.
But speaking of mosquitoes, bro, you got to see what I bought off Amazon yesterday for the trip next week. I got this portable mosquito repellent. It's battery. Dude, I got cooked in Aruba.
Yeah, but
my entire leg was mosquito bites. I'm not going through that again.
I know you're going. I've been there. You ain't going through that there.
Yeah?
No,
Thank
I promise.
God. I thought it was a season, maybe.
No.
All right. Well, I got Afterbite. I got that tea or whatever.
I love the
and
pain
this thing on the table that
I love the pain of
mosquitoes.
Afterbite, man. Nothing like a good...
Joey, I got it. The first 2 days were brutal. Anyway, let's go into SMCI here. Let's talk about some super micro. It's up 5%, so recovering. In case you missed it last week, here's what's going on. A couple of more developments since then. A super micro co-founder as well as board member, Ye Xian Liao, was arrested by the Department of Justice for allegedly helping smuggle AI servers to China. Authorities claimed that the group rerouted U.S.-made servers through Taiwan and Southeast Asia, ultimately disguising shipments, of course, to bypass the export restrictions. The operation allegedly involved removing serial numbers and relabeling hardware, highlighting the sophistication of the scheme, I should say. Liao resigned from the board immediately, with the company stating it was not due to an internal disagreement. Supermicro clarified that the company itself was not named as a defendant in the Department of Justice complaint, and they've been cooperating with investigators, according to the report. The risks going forward, of course, further regulatory scrutiny. You've got to assume the regulator is going to be all over them from forever and ever more now that they've really kind of lit it up a couple of times. Also, a broader investigation into supply chain practices. There's also the reputational damage that could impact customer trust, as well as future contracts, Joey. You got to assume, if this company keeps getting these headlines, there's going to be a point that the big players are going to not want to deal with them anymore, because it's just going to be way too much in terms of we want to get the heat away from us.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's nothing new with these guys, apparently. I mean, repeat offenders on earnings reports, always late to the bell or prolonging it. Selling $2.5 billion worth of NVDA or AI chips to China, never a good thing anyways. I found it comical as I was reading through some things.
Yeah.
An analyst company actually upgraded Supermicro, so that's, I find that.
Yeah, there was a bunch. No, you're right. So let's go through them, because I think that's fair, because you have to bring up a good point.
So the way that they would look at it is like, hey, if they're upgrading this name, then it may not be as serious potentially as it's made out to be, even though it's not a good thing.
Or they have a vested interest, right? Let's be honest.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right?
So, but why would you upgrade a stock that's going to be in trouble by the DOJ?
Boy. Let's go through some of these upgrades, and then we'll get Adair's opinion in a second here. Bank of America Securities maintains Supermicro coverage with an underperform and a target of 24. The past price was 34, so they dropped it to 24. What else? There's a bunch I saw today. Let's just go through some of them here. Downgraded. Who downgraded? No? Okay, let's just keep going. After dropping, sorry, 1 second. Bernstein Sogen Group maintains Supermicro coverage with a market perform and a target of 37. Northland Capital, as you mentioned, downgraded Supermicro with a $22 price target.
It was these guys that upgraded it to a whole.
What's the name of them?
I don't know. ISS EVA.
ISS EVA. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of different analyst ratings today, guys, on Supermicro, obviously with the news item last week. Let's go to Adara and get her take on SMCI.
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of wanted to go back and see what's happened when SMCI has had similar drops and kind of how has it reacted in the day since. I'm specifically avoiding earnings because I don't know if that's necessarily comparable. I think maybe one of the most obvious came through September 26th. So I think this might have been intraday, which is probably why this candle looks like it does. But this was the day, September 6th, 2024, well over a year ago now, about a year and a half ago now. Now, this was, I believe, the day that we had first reports of this DOJ investigation into SMCI. Now, the next day, we don't really make up too much of what we lost the day prior, right? So we have a big drop on that day. I believe this is a Wednesday. And the Thursday, we certainly gap up a little bit below or trade a little bit higher here than the low from the prior day, but we don't make a ton of headway into actually undoing that drop from that Wednesday. Another day here, you've got this August 27th, 24 versus August 28th, 24. August 28th, 2024, this was a Wednesday. This is when you first start hearing reports. The company's going to be in trouble here with these investigations. And again, the next day, not really making too much headway. It's relatively flat. Now, if you look at today here, now this is, of course, going to be the drop on Friday. The move today, I mean, we're not entirely making up this drop that we had here on Friday, but in terms of like actually trying to get to Friday's high, we're not too far away. So, I mean, obviously a little bit hard to compare different moves. I don't want to even necessarily say that this is all going to be part and parcel, but as Neil said, you could have had like another 10% drop today. And the fact that we hadn't does give you not tons of confidence in SMCI, but relatively decent confidence in SMCI going forward. The fact that they also addressed it and said, hey, this guy is no longer on our board, I think that's a good sign. We'll have to see what happens forward here for SMCI. I think reputationally, this name is obviously not the best. I don't think the story helps it from a reputational standpoint, but from a stock standpoint, I certainly think it could be worse.
Thank you very much, guys. SER just made a move into 310. The spread is opening up now, but it just took out 304 and 305. So SER, watch out here. This could make it into 322. That is the high. And then if we get into that level, we could be squeezing into the $0.25. This is on the MX network. So it's, for me, under suspicion until it proves itself innocent. There it goes into 312. It's really moving now, guys. So SER should be in focus. So is SATL. SATL is into the high of the day at 455. Be on the lookout for that one as well. Let's talk a little oil, though. So much has obviously happened since this article was written. So, take this with a grain of salt, and then we'll update you guys on the actual news items that came out since this article was written. But oil prices fell sharply, at least in the morning, after President Donald Trump signaled productive talks with Iran, which reduced the immediate escalation risk. The U.S. paused planned strikes on the Iranian energy infrastructure for 5 days. The key driver here is risk premium unwind as traders, of course, price out of the worst case geopolitical scenario. USO is down still 8 1/3, so it really hasn't recovered despite Iranian insistence that this never happened, that they didn't negotiate. We'll get more information from Adara when she comments about this. Trump had previously demanded, I think it was Saturday afternoon, that's when I remember it coming in, that Iran open the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours of the issuing of his message on Truth Social, but the timeline remains uncertain. And then member nations, as we know, the IEA, the International Energy Agency, they've been trying to avert a crisis by releasing oil into the market through their strategic reserves. So far, Joey, at least by this morning, 400 million barrels from the strategic reserves have been released, with more possible. Have you looked at what gas prices are?
I was at the pump on Saturday.
And how much did you pay?
$2.10 a liter of
for
93.
What was the headline number for 87?
Probably $1. Yeah, probably around there, yeah.
Talking liters, of course, and we're talking Canadian dollars. What do you think about this whole thing?
I think it's interesting, right? Like Donald Trump saying, hey, it's a lot of he said, she said as well, too. Sharif just saying, all right, we talked to them. No, they didn't talk to him. Now he's giving them a timeline, essentially, on which he's not going to strike their energy plants. It's getting really, really ugly, to be honest with you. But I do believe things will eventually cool down. It's just the nature of it. I don't think either of them want to continuously escalate it and go against what the other one said. So it's best that they just come to talks. At the end of the day, there's no real winner of this. It's just going to be moved on to the consumer. We're paying extra premiums at the pumps, $210 or $2.10 for premium, oil fluctuating. But I think April 9th is going to be a big teller of where we move next. And I think we have to be more patient. Things slowly did start to cool down. You can see that the volatility spikes aren't as frequent. They step in, but they're not as aggressive and as frequent as we've seen in the first couple of weeks of this conflict. And
we want to shout out Chaotic Night, guys, on TikTok. Thank you so much, Chaotic Night, brother, for sending one cap. That's like the super chat, I think, equivalent on TikTok. So thank you, Chaotic Night. And I love the name, by the way. Keep watching.
How many? So someone at Hardball said, how many loonies for a liter? It's 2 loonies. For 93, 2 loonies and 10 cents.
I put in 172.9. Which was before it went up to 178, I think.
So how many? So what is there? 3 liters, 3 point what liters in a gallon?
I didn't put 87 though. I put 91. So I put like it's. I forgot what it even got.
How many liters in a gallon? 3 something.
3.7, I believe.
Is it 3.7?
Is it 3 or 3.7? Something like that.
3.78. Yeah. So
3.7854.
Yeah. Yes. So we'll call it 4 flat. Yeah. That's 2.46. That's $8.40 a gallon.
What's your take on oil, Adara?
I'm not going to give my take as much as just kind of go over all of the many stories we've heard with regards to Iran and the U.S., which I actually think is very fair. Let's start here, though, by talking about this initial post that President Trump shared. So as Sharif said, this was in the afternoon on Saturday. It was actually more specifically 7:44 p.m. on Saturday. Now, I say this because we would know that if that 48-hour ultimatum did end today, which it was scheduled to, it wouldn't have happened during market hours, at the very least. That would have been tonight, 7:44 p.m. Now, it's interesting because this post came out, it would have been about 36 hours, just under 36 hours, before President Trump shared his post today. Now, in that post, he said that he had been speaking to Iran for 2 days. Now, if you want to get nitpicky, those 2 days could have actually started before this post. So if he was talking to Iran, kind of playing dirty by, during the conversation announcing this. But I think, again, the biggest thing about that 7 a.m. or so post today was that he said that the U.S. will not be hitting these power plants for the next 5 days. Now, again, that was what he promised they'd start hitting tonight at 7:44 p.m. So that was the biggest thing he said. I actually think that's bigger than whether or not Iran and the U.S. are in conversation, because that's been so back and forth and on and off, it's kind of hard to track. For what it's worth, Iran has repeatedly denied it's in conversation with the U.S. We heard some reports earlier today, later in the morning, around 10:45 a.m. or so, from Axios and the Jerusalem Post, suggesting that a certain individual here, this is actually going to be the parliament speaker of Iran, Mohammed Bagher Galibaf. Some reports were suggesting that he was going to be leading negotiations on the Iranian side. Then Vice President Vance would be leading negotiations on the U.S. side. They'd all be meeting in Pakistan. This report was denied by Galibaf himself, saying that these negotiations have not happened and that the markets need to stop basically using this fake news to manipulate oil. And the fake news was his words. Now, most recent updates here from the oil situation are actually just coming a couple minutes ago here, reported by Axios, suggesting that Vice President Vance of the U.S. and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu have discussed the components of a possible agreement to end the war with Iran. Now, this is actually significant because earlier today we heard Israel saying they weren't in any way, or they weren't privy to any knowledge in any way that the U.S. was even interested in ending this conflict. Now, again, we're hearing reports that Vance and Netanyahu were actually discussing an agreement to end the conflict. So tons of back and forth. Also, interestingly enough, April 9th has been floated as the date that the U.S. would like to exit these tensions by. Now, April 9th, if that date sounds kind of familiar, that's the date that President Trump last year, so April 9th, 2025, said, oh, it's a great day to buy, and then the market had like its second best day ever in the NASDAQ. So if they're trying to end the conflict on April 9th, that can't be a coincidence.
Thank you very much for that. Let's go on to the next story. Let's talk about gold as a safe haven trade being unwound amid rate hike and inflation shocks. So gold, where is it down? Still 1 3/4. Silver's up 2 1/3. So a bit of a variance there. But gold, silver, and platinum, at least before President Trump truth this morning, were all extending their sharp declines, signaling a broad unwind of the safe haven trade. They dropped about 10% last week. Gold was 10% decline, marking the worst stretch it's had since 2011. It's now fallen about, I want to say at the time of the writing of this article, I can look at the chart here, roughly 25% from its late January record highs. Silver, as I mentioned, up 2 1/4, 2 1/3 today, but it's also been hit even harder, down about give or take 50% since late February. We can have a look at the technicals in a second. But the speed of the unwind, though, that's the thing. It suggests the decline is more about forced liquidations and a positioning unwind, not just a gradual rotation out of these metals and these safe haven trades. And despite the geopolitical tensions, of course, we're talking about the Iran conflict, gold is failing, highlighting a shift where interest rate expectations are the actual dominant factor or the variable at the moment. Rising inflation from energy prices is pushing expectations higher for rate hikes, which hurts obviously these non-yielding assets like gold. Investors are rotating towards yield-bearing assets like bond, despite the fact that bonds themselves, or yields themselves, excuse me, are actually rising. And the funny part about this, Joey, though, is gold typically rallies during these periods of political uncertainty or geopolitical crises, but this time it's failing as a hedge, indicating that there could be a regime shift. Do you think that that's the case, or do you think it has something to do just with the current situation?
Well, I think it's just changing what's the new thing, right? Like, I mean, you have that gold run for quite some time, multiple months, almost a year, where it's just steady up and to the right, appreciating, but then it just typically cooled down, and then you found a new conflict, and it's kind of like the market found that new toy, which is going to be USO and the oil, right? So I think that's just the cyclical nature of the beast. I don't think that it's completely done. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a steady grind higher, because we know the Chinese and other countries were grabbing this stuff hand over fist and just really stockpiling the reserves. But I think that's really the narrative, is that you had this once fun toy, kind of got bored of it, Sharif, and then now you're moving on to that new toy, which is going to be the oil trade.
You don't think we pause for a little bit in the gold trade and mosey on
as long as this goes up, right? Like, it's the unpopular until it becomes, it's like, oh, hey, I missed that trade, I missed that thing. Then you know what I mean. Then we'll go back to it. Typically, it takes a little bit of a break, right? It pulls back, appreciate it. But I think it's just like, hey, we'll put that one to the side, and then we're going to focus on that oil trade right now. And I think that's where the money's kind of been moving into.
All right, let's go on to the next story. Airlines hit by travel chaos, security strain, and delays. Sadly, 2 pilots did die yesterday in a Air Canada crash. I believe it was at LaGuardia or JFK. It was in New York, I believe, at LaGuardia. So New York's LaGuardia Airport was closed temporarily after a fatal runway collision. The incident involved Air Canada Express flight operated by Jazz Aviation and a Port Authority vehicle. Brendo tells me that it was a fire truck. Security lines as well stretched to extreme wait times, up to 3 hours, with some airports seeing lines exceeding 100 minutes. We know that the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, is facing staffing shortages as well as operational strain. Reports suggest TSA workers are not being paid during the shutdown, impacting morale. And now there's people calling in sick. let's have a look at where the JETS ETF is. I remember DAL and a bunch of these airlines were down in the morning. They've all since recovered. I mean, AAL's up 4.5, DAL's up 4, but like quite frankly, they're down off the highs. So AAL, for example, is down 2.5% since the bell rang. So the bell rang over here, and we've been basically putting in lower lows and lower highs, but a better recovery than where we were this morning. And Jets ETF is also up 4%. So not a bad look, but yeah, more concern here as the Department of Homeland Security is what covers the TSA, and that department has kind of run out of funding, from my understanding, and it needs to be refreshed. And the Democrats and the Republicans can't agree on a bill that does it, because the Republicans want certain things, the Democrats want certain things. They're not agreeing, and those people are going unpaid. Your friend Elon offered to pay them on the weekend. He said he'd pay for TSA workers. I don't know how much he really meant that, but he put that out on X.
Meanwhile, he's flying private.
He's flying private.
No, but Donald telling everybody to get back to work as he typically does.
Yeah.
He's saying you won't be he said you won't be forgotten if you don't go back to work. Fortunately, even though this is a horrible thing, Sharif, we'll take a positive out of this, that there wasn't too many passengers on the Air Canada plane, only 72.
Yeah,
At least
exactly.
you didn't have hundreds and hundreds on some of the larger flights. I mean, there's no reports of fatalities just yet on this thing.
Oh,
yeah,
I thought the pilots died.
I didn't read that the two pilots died. Okay, which is unfortunate. So that's not good.
Have you seen the plane in the front?
I didn't see the plane, so people are good. Is it? Yeah. So people are probably. Unfortunately they did, but the airport is back open. So I mean. That's not really important. Unfortunately, people did lose their lives, and Air Canada definitely taking a hit from that.
All right, I think IBIT might be moving there, Joey.
Apparently.
Let's talk about AMD. AMD's up 1.5%. This morning, South Korean AI startup called Upstage, they're considering a large purchase of AMD MI355X chips. They're considering about 10,000. That is AMD's latest design chip, ahead of the 455. Obviously, was CEO of this upstage company called Sung Kim. Discussed the move with Lisa Su, reinforcing AMD's growing relevance, of course, in the growing AI global infrastructure build-out. We're going to pause for a minute. We're going to Adara.
We have updates here with regards to Iran. Al Jazeera reporting that a senior Iranian official has said that President Trump doesn't have the authority to set conditions or deadlines for negotiations with Iran, saying that Washington continues to refuse to accept two essential conditions for Iran. One is paying reparations, and the second is acknowledging the aggression against Iran. Again, these conditions are coming from Iran. But once again, Al Jazeera reporting that a senior Iranian official has said President Trump does not have the authority to engage in deadlines or condition setting here when it comes to ending tensions in Iran and within the Middle East. The other story here that's continuing to circulate, I'll mention it one more time. I did mention it a couple of minutes ago, but Axios reporting that Vice President J.D. Vance has spoken with Netanyahu, leader of Israel, over the phone Monday morning. They discussed some efforts to open negotiations with Iran, along with the terms of a possible deal to end the tensions. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Upstage, the company that's buying around 10,000 of these MI355Xs from AMD, they're also involved in a government-backed initiative to build the national AI models. We've been talking a lot about a sovereign AI build-out where basically governments have their own built and usable AI. Access to NVIDIA's GPUs remains very competitive, which is creating opportunities for some others, namely here AMD, to capture incremental market share in the AI accelerator market. The next major earnings day, though, or catalyst, I should say, unless one comes from out of the blue, and AMD expects to report earnings May 5th of 2026. We shall see if that changes. Just before we go to Joey, I want to mention SATL is really on a breakout now. This is a really good move here, about 440. 450 couldn't stand in its way. Basically, the $0.50 resistance didn't really act much of a resistance at all. And there's the volume spike at 135, breaking out into 481 high. This one could see 5 momentarily. SATL, great mover on Friday, but it did give up a lot of the gains today, at least not yet. Day 2 continuation, though, Joey, on SATL. What's your take here on AMD? I know you were involved in the AMDL today.
Yeah, we're short AMD today here, guys. But I like what this says here, Sharif. Upstage competes in a state-backed AI Squid Game tournament to develop Korea's top national AI models. So it just shows you the competitive nature isn't just in the Western world, but a lot of countries want to compete and have this massive AI build-out. They're having a Squid Game tournament to see who can come out with the best AI models in Korea, which I find absolutely insane and somewhat funny that they would phrase it like that. But it just shows you the demand across the globe, essentially, for some of these American-made chips.
All right, Novo Nordisk was red on the morning, but has since obviously recovered. It did gap down substantially. It closed out, I believe, on Friday at around 36.5 bucks. When in the morning we were down about 35, 2/3, so not that bad. Anyway, they're getting a lot of pressure from India, and you'll explain why in a sec. So Semiglutide lost its patent protection in India, which is unleashing a wave of generic competition. At least 5 domestic manufacturers launched versions priced up to 80% cheaper than when Novo sells their drug for in India. Example, generics are priced as low as $8 a week. Novo in India is charging between $30 to $35. There's actually a lot of people that want to get their hands on this drug in India. Apparently, there's a high growth opportunity with about 100 million diabetics and a rising obesity rate in the country, which could obviously be good for a GLP market. The country's generics ecosystem, though, actually produces about 20% of the global off-patent drugs. So if you run out of your patent in North America, maybe it's being made in India. You'll have to look at it. Check where you're getting your generic drugs from. Demand is strong, but affordability, according to the report, has been a barrier. So these Indian drug manufacturers coming in to fill that void and price it just right. Over 50 generic brands expected over 50 generic brands expected, though complexity of GLP-1 manufacturers may limit rapid scale. So apparently there's 50 different companies that are actually coming to put out a generic version of semaglutide in India. Now, each country has its own jurisdiction, and obviously the patent expires at different times in different countries. Novo is also facing pressure globally from Eli Lilly because they have their own, and now they're getting into the oral variants as well. Novo had already warned of a potential 5 to 13% decline in sales in 26, partly due to pricing pressure. And now analysts expect Novo may need to cut prices further to remain their market share, keeping only about a 15 to 20% premium. Joe?
Yeah. I find it interesting. It's not good, right? If you're going to get undercut like that, you're going to essentially lose all your market share because people are going to look for the cheaper alternative. But isn't that how it works in a lot of places? In a lot of places, Sharif, that the patent eventually expires. So why wouldn't Hims wait if they wanted to sell their that compounded version? Yeah. Why wouldn't they just wait until the patent? I mean, you obviously want to be able to capitalize as much as you possibly can, but why not be a little bit more patient and wait until that patent expires, and then you can be more free roaming on selling your compounded version?
You mean in North America,
or
in Canada, or in the States?
Wherever,
because it didn't expire yet. Yeah.
But I mean, but you know what I mean? Like, it's eventually going to expire, is it not?
Let me tell you. Yeah. There's an entire business about doing this. So, you know that Barry Sherman guy that got killed, him and Honey Sherman? They're like billionaires. Yeah. So he used to own a company called Apotex. Apotex is a Canadian drug manufacturer.
Yeah, right there off of the...
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. So right this guy ran
427.
It, right? And he got offed. But before he was offed, his modus operandi was to basically take your drug. It wasn't off patent yet, right? He'd take it, and he'd start manufacturing and selling it. And then what would end up happening is, you know, the company that actually made it would sue him in court. He'd be like, all right, sue me, you know, stop me. He'd lose some and he'd win some. And that's how he made his money. Like, not only, but that was kind of like an arb that he had, right? Yeah. He obviously made money selling drugs the normal way.
And it's 20 years, some people are saying, which is, okay, that's fine.
It depends
You're not
on
going
the
to wait. It depends on where I mean, they're also, Novo also working on their oral drug. It's looking pretty good. They're working on a new study of Lexicon as well, too, an oral obesity drug. We know that they are already getting involved with that, so that could be good for margins as well, too. Less storage facilities. You don't need to necessarily keep it cool, and maybe a little bit more of a TAM as well. You can address a larger market there.
Synopsys gets the backing of Elliott. Let's talk about this. Elliott Investment Management has taken a multi-billion-dollar position in Synopsys. SNPS, the ticker, up about 4%. $83.5 billion market cap, signaling confidence in the semiconductor design software. The fund, Elliott Management that is, plans to push for strategic changes to unlock additional value. A familiar playbook, of course, for Elliott. That's kind of what they do. Synopsys, just so you know, operates in the EDA space, which is electronic design automation. That's a critical layer of the semiconductor ecosystem. Elliott is effectively betting that AI-driven complexity will require more design demand, and more design demand will mean higher software monetization. That's their thesis. That's kind of what they're putting their money behind. Investors typically view, though, Elliott's activism as a positive catalyst for the stock, given the history of driving shareholder returns. Who remembers this in the 80s? Does anybody remember, like, you know, these companies that would just come in and they'd union bust, they'd lay off a bunch of workers, they'd take a company that was just, say, $200 million market cap, they fundamentally change the look of the company and they'd sell it for like 4 or 5 times the return. That was like the playbook for some of these players in the 80s. I'm not saying Elliott's as aggressive of doing that, but that's kind of the same modus operandi. They just give you an example. They previously pushed Western Digital to spin off its flash and HDD business, and we saw what WD did after that. There's also potential for strategic actions. There could be cost optimizations. Parts of the company could be spun off. Capital allocation changes. We'll have to see what kind of methodology Elliott executes or uses in this specific acquisition. But this is interesting. When you see Elliott's name go into something, usually gets your attention, brother.
Yeah, let's pull up some of the technicals here on Synopsys.
Greg Moore, you're absolutely right. SNPS.
Yeah, SNPS here, Synopsys. Okay, here we go. Take a look at some of the technicals on this one.
Is it a good daily or crap?
It's really a mixed bag here, Sharif. A lot of ebb and flow on this one. Yeah, I mean, you have a high of around 649. You lose 30% right there, 33%. So 436, a massive gap down. You fill up about 60% of it here, maybe close to 65. But yeah, the chart not the prettiest thing. That's for sure. Not something that we typically day trade either.
Fair enough. XPEV almost up 7%, but NEO's up as well. So here's what happened. XPeng reported their first ever quarterly net profit. Profitability marks a key milestone after years and years of losses, signaling what could be improved cost control and operating leverage. Just to give you an idea, net profit came in at 383.2 million yuan. That's about $55.7 million. That is compared to a $1.33 billion yuan loss last year. Revenue also increased 13.3 billion yuan. That's up from the 12.2. So you get an increase on the top line and you get profitability, not a bad look. Vehicles delivered as well. 61 to 66,000 units. That implies about a 26 to 31,000 monthly pace. That is trending above the yearly average. And they're also gaining traction by monetizing their advanced tech stack, especially through partnerships. We know that they had that tie-up with Volkswagen. And in fact, Volkswagen is actually launching their first model called the ID UNYX08 using XPeng's platform. That's expected to come out in early March. Management, though, aims to evolve, they said, the company into a physical AI company, expanding into robotics, expanding into humanoid tech. I always used to joke that XPeng is like the Chinese version of Tesla, because when you looked at their full self-driving, or whatever they called it, their automated driving, it looked almost identical to Tesla's. Now they're expanding into robotics and humanoid. I guess that's not beyond the realm of possibility, but yeah, another good look here for XPeng. Joey, it's up 7%. Man.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. They're just trying to start their own division. It's like the Xiaomi with the iPhone and everything, and you're going to kind of see that mimic trade here. But I don't know how long that can last or the longevity within it. especially with a market where it's very, very difficult and essentially crowded and all of the Chinese manufacturers are willing to undercut each other. So it's interesting to see essentially what Xpeng can come up with here.
All right, a couple of headlines. There goes SER. You guys were hating on me. You're like, you got me into this trade. It broke down. It didn't. It put in a higher low. I told y'all this one was coming. Halted, I believe. Is this halted? No. 329 high. It ends up taking the prior area high. It's at 3.25 now. A clean hold, I would say, of VWAP here. I get it that it failed initially at 125. It got into 313. Lucky number 13. Dropped but held VWAP. And there you go. Up into 329. Be careful, though. You can see the topping tail start to manifest there. But a great look, I would say, for SER on the day. And then the OG Darwin, as he typically does, calls out a good one here. And the ticker is TSQ. Nice breakout here, midday assassino. Look at this. Nice doing nothing, rocket. Up into, I believe, 560 TSQ. I'm not seeing a headline on this, Darwin, so if you could tell me what the hell is going on with this, because I don't have anything on it quite yet. But nice breakout there, and it looks like it's up about a little bit less than 7%. So good look for TSQ. Let's go on to the next story. We still have a few minutes. Apogee, good look over here. Give a second. APGE up about 20%, guys. Not a bad look. Surging on a strong phase 2 data breakthrough. So Apogee Therapeutics reported strong 52-week maintenance data from its phase 2 Apex trial for Semiglutide. Whatever. The drug targets moderate to severe atopic dermatitis. Results showed sustained efficacy across both 3 and 6 month dosing regimens. So it was well met there. Patients demonstrated continued improvement across key endpoints, including the itch, lesion reduction over time. It's also achieved meaningful symptom relief with fewer doses. That's interesting. Potentially improving patient compliance and cost profile because you use more of this. Typically, the side effects go up as well. Standard of care treatments, though, typically require more frequent dosing, positioning Apogee's therapy as a differentiated option. This is a nice breakout here, Joey. $5.5 billion market cap, APGE, Apogee Therapeutics.
Yeah, it received a couple upgrades here as well, too, Sharif. One from Wedbush. I see a lot of breakthroughs. The eczema trials are going pretty good for it. So, I mean, it's tough for me personally. I'm not really one to get into the biotech names, and I think they come and go, right? You go through these kind of volatility spikes, and it happens when you get a little bit of good news. But this name is still down 61% from that previous pivot high of $87 to $33.
Did you ever earmark some of these biotech companies that have positive phase 2, phase 3 trials as good bio candidates by bigger companies like the Pfizers, who have like a crap product pipeline lately? Some of the other people falling off a little bit, you know?
Pfizer's too big? You think Pfizer's too? Oh, like Pfizer being the acquired? Yeah. I mean, it definitely. But I'm not involved in with the therapeutics that much, to be honest with you, just due to the lack of how much the phases, how much they can cost and how long they can go on for. So.
All right, let's go on to the next story. DraftKings jumps on regulatory push against prediction markets. This had been one of the reasons that, you know, FLUT and DKNG had been getting hit because, well, Polymarket and Kalshi were coming in and taking over their moat. But U.S. lawmakers are preparing a bipartisan bill aimed at banning prediction markets from offering sports event contracts. The legislation specifically targets platforms like Kalshi and Polymarket. These platforms currently offer contracts on game outcomes and player performance, and they're operating under the financial derivatives rule rather than the gambling laws. So a bit of a different regulatory framework. Supporters argue prediction markets are effectively unregulated sports books, and by virtue of that, they're bypassing state gaming laws and consumer protections. Casino operators and regulators claim these platforms, well, they avoid licensing. They avoid paying taxes at the requisite rate, and the compliance requirements that creates, according to them, unfair competition. Prediction market firms, they counter that and they say, look, our products are financial instruments used for hedging and information discovery. They're not gambling. I mean, I get the difference. Do you think it's a distinction without a difference?
Yes or no, Sharif?
What's yes or no?
That's how it works. That's how it is, right? Like it's either yes or no.
No, but I don't think it's that clear. I think there could be a technical difference, but in effect, there wouldn't be a difference. There's a technical difference in that, you're a prediction market instead of gambling, but is the consumer affected the same way? And if such, do we need to protect the consumer in the same way
Absolutely.
that we protect them in gambling?
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I'm getting
Absolutely.
at. Yeah.
But I mean, it goes by kind of by district as well too, because New York already put in the voted in the favor essentially for DraftKings. Those companies say, hey, no, we're not going to allow the Robin Hoods and everybody to have the prediction market in those contracts and everything else. So I think it really depends on where you are. It sucks because you have these large participants putting in the prediction markets, like these large brokers who are saying, hey, you can now bet essentially, which is really, really hurting some of the smaller gambling websites.
I gotta say, I'm not talking about the gambling side, but I do like the prediction markets. I find them to be highly accurate. We saw, how they felt about President Trump's IEEPA tariffs. We saw, how they felt about the election that President Trump won, that the polls were not showing. So I like the prediction markets as sort of a medium of truth, but I'm not saying that they don't have any effects on people in the way that gambling does, and they might need a different regulatory look. But I like the prediction markets. I think that they're pretty accurate, Joe.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's going to have the same effect. It doesn't matter. People are going to, if they're going to want to wager their money, they'll find something, right? It's either, hey, we're going to predict this, or I'm going to go over and just place a bet somewhere else,
on
right?
like a Bahamian website.
Exactly, you know what I mean?
Should mention that state level actions, like we're talking about Massachusetts and Nevada, they've already challenged prediction markets legally. But what we're talking about here is a federal ban that would standardize enforcement. That's kind of what I want to differentiate there. I realize that states are already doing it on their own level. Let's talk a little Palantir here, and then we'll probably wind it up. There's only a couple of minutes to go. Palantir Technologies saw its Maven AI system designated as an official program of record by the Pentagon. This signals a long-term commitment, of course, as well as funding stability and a broader deployment across other military branches. The transition is expected to take effect by the end of the current fiscal year. Apparently for Palantir, that's September. The ending of their fiscal year doesn't run with the calendar year always. Maven is a command and control AI platform. It integrates data from the satellites, from drones that you have, and from other sensors, and it enables real-time battlefield intelligence as well as threat detection, targeting support, etc. The system is designed to enhance decision-making, but humans still, according to Palantir, are responsible for the final targeting actions. Future contracts for Maven now, apparently, according to this report, they're going to be handled, by the Army, signaling a deeper institutional integration. Ethical concerns, though, persist around AI-assisted targeting software, including potential legal and security risks. Palantir continues to emphasize, though, humans remain in the loop. Separately, what I'm hearing, again, not from any official source, I'm hearing that Maven will, so say, for example, let's just say for the Iran conflict, you say like, all right, we wanna hit this country, all right, and our objective is such. It will give you the list of targets to hit. It'll tell you where to hit them, when, what order to hit them in, what weapons to use, how to strategize your...
It's crazy. It's pinging off satellite.
No, but it's using its own AI with all that information to give you what it thinks is like the most devastating outcome.
The most efficient and dominate outcome. Yeah, that's what Karp wants, though. That he's designed this stuff, and there's other things like organic seeking material as well, weapons that are going to be involved. There's a lot. He signed the Maven's also going to be placed on the Humvee, so it's going to be an unmanned Humvee. That's going to have the same data implementing. It's like, hey, what do we want to use? The 50 cal up here,
that's what I mean.
Or the
it
rocket.
Knows exactly what weapon to use, where, when. It's terrifying. Yeah, Skynet. I see that. Rank 9092. Ryan K. 9092. Skynet equals Maven. Yeah, I think that it's like maybe Skynet 1.0, but hopefully it won't go rogue. Guys, it's 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And the big boys, they're over here. You want to leave them off with anything?
Yeah. Well, a great session here, guys. I hope everyone had a fantastic Monday. It wasn't so manic after all. Katina Man checked the short out here on AMD. Pop. We're still sitting in a little bit, not much left there, but a nice little short on AMD. That is going to probably be it for the remainder of the session.
Big boys that way.
Welcome.